I'll try and find you over there too and tag you in that.
Let's get this just in case we need it. A little history lesson. Screen there.
Oh my God, you're going from the backwards.
Well, you gotta, you know, like
that's how you get the history
best.
lesson.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you see what the storyline, what went up, what, you know, what's going on. I guess I see finally partnered. So you started on Twitch. This is all podcast.
No.
I shouldn't talk.
Why? I'm like, what are you doing, Kyle? This is the podcast.
I like diving in. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you can dive in. It's fine.
But yeah. Oh, sick. All right, it's gonna be fun. I can already tell the energy is good. Oh, morning, chat. How are y'all doing? If you were here for our raid last night, thanks for all showing up for this. This is starting a bit early. If you were here with us till the end of Valley Garmonda Extreme last night.
It's my fault that we're doing it early. It's that good old Portuguese schedule kicking in. I actually really appreciate you guys doing it earlier because like doing stuff too late is very frustrating for me. So yeah, it's a big time zone difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to have you. Happy to facilitate, and you know we get done a little early too. We get it posted a little earlier for the Friday. It all works out great.
Yeah. I'm horribly sleep deprived today, but normally love recording at this exact time. Like it gets the recording. It's like in the bag for the day. I love, for us it's 10 a.m. I love 10 a.m. records.
Oh man, tell me about it. Yeah, agreed.
Oh shoot, heck yeah. All right, sweet. All right, I'm all ready for an official start to the program, which we don't really do anything fancy for it. That all happens in the edit for the audio podcast. But
there's post-production and stuff?
Well, like, you know, a little song and dance, you know.
A little bit.
Yeah. Do I get special effects? I get like a big explosion?
Well, not on the video side. Yes. No, there's no.
Yeah, oh man,
it's all audio. We can add an explosion sound effect if you would like, though. If that's important to you.
It needs to be the wyvern fire sound, though, specifically. Okay. It's very important. I'm joking. I don't care.
I take every camera frame. I put it into like a filter. You know, I'm gonna see if they have like a Pookie filter for you or something.
Pookie? Yeah. No. If you have a filter for me, it has to be Basel.
Basel.
I don't think we met Basel yet.
No, yeah.
I think you finished Monster Hunter World. You told me you finished it, right?
No, I said we're on track to finish it.
Oh, okay. So you guys might have not seen Basel. Oops.
Wait. Basel is Bagel Uses, Beetlejuice, B52. Is that what you're talking about? Yes, we are aware of his
never mind.
presence.
We just killed that. Why does that? Okay, here we are. Hi, everybody. This is the podcast now. I'm Garrett. He's Kyle. We are here today with our wonderful guest, Rurikhan, to talk Monster Hunter. I have a feeling Final Fantasy will also come up.
I mean, I'm sure, and maybe even World of Warcraft. Who knows?
All right.
Nothing is off limits. We've been the last like 3 weeks. We've been using this term on this program specifically because like conversation has just been meandering in the last couple of episodes between Kyle and me between 14, Monster Hunter, and World of Warcraft, and we've just been using this term called MMOsely, where it's like they're just they're vaguely MMOs. They're all vaguely. And if they're not full on MMOs,
like some live service.
I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Seems to have a shared player base.
Gathering hub things.
Yeah. Like I think most people would probably fight you on Monster Hunter being a MMO, but boy howdy does it have some MMO DNA, particularly World.
World has something that you could almost consider a little bit live servicey in the way that they did it because of the way that the events work and all of that. And you guys if you're playing it now, you're catching like all of the events already done, because when we were playing through it as it was getting released, it felt a lot like a live service, to the point where after the first expansion, everybody just expected that they were going to keep making more and more expansions and basically run it like an MMO. But most of us already knew, no, this is the one expansion, and then they're going to go off and make another game because that's what they do.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's like kind of the vibe I got from it. Like so we're like totally new, and God, I do just want to dive in and talk about this, but it's your first time on the program too. So like, I would also like to invite you to introduce yourself because you haven't been on our program before. You have been requested multiple times by our
wonderful
I appreciate
community. I appreciate the community requesting me. I appreciate you guys having me. I am Rurikhan. I am mostly a YouTuber. Sometimes I stream on Twitch as well, but my main platform is YouTube, simply because YouTube saves the VODs and because I'm a family man. I don't have as much time to just like make throwaway big live streams that are going to disappear after a month or whatever. So that keeps it relevant.
Topical this week.
Really? Oh,
Well,
right. Because
yeah.
there's something that Twitch did, right? I saw a tweet from a friend of mine where Twitch is like cutting out stuff for people that have like archived highlights and whatnot, right?
Yeah, 100-hour limit. They announced this week. They're like, sorry, you can only keep 100 hours of VODs on your channels. Sorry to literally everyone, particularly you folks that have, it's like so crushing, and it's more crushing to folks that have been using that platform the longest. So it's like, hey, let's make a bad decision that's infinitely worse for our most like engaged users.
Easily 7 years of letting you like put thumbnails and title them and organize them in little playlists.
Yeah, I probably am losing some of my clips. I have clips in there that are like years old, but my biggest focus has always been the Souls games. So that's everything that From Software does pretty much, as well as the Monster Hunter series, even though I've always been passionate about Monster Hunter, but I could never really properly cover it because before World, what would happen is Monster Hunter would come out in Japan, and then a year or two afterwards, then it would come out to the West. And so when it comes to content creation, if you're covering stuff like 2 years after it's been released in some cases, you're never really going to see growth and stuff like that. So making content for it was always challenging. But I did play the older games. And then when World came out, they started releasing them at the same time. And that's when I was like, finally, I can just like dedicate everything into making content for this thing that I like so much.
That's rad. I love hearing that because like I've always operated like very similarly. Like when I was like even all the way back to before I started making content, which at this point, like I don't like thinking about how long I've been at this, but the first thing I ever did was with Kyle all the way back in 2010. We made our first podcast together, and I remember us talking about it even back then, and we were pretty bad at it, but I think the one thing we were like on the right track for was like being smart about what we pull the trigger on to make content about, because we wanted to do something with games. And at the time we were both not only like playing a decent amount of World of Warcraft, but consuming World of Warcraft content. And this was pre Twitch days. Back in 2010, Twitch didn't exist. So we were listening to podcasts. That was our entry into the world of realizing, oh, we can actually like make something like I can do this. This seems realistic. This is something I can create. But we didn't want to jump on World of Warcraft, even though that's what we were, kind of enjoying at the time, because it was like so crowded. There were so many. I mean, at the time there had to have been like over 60 World of Warcraft podcasts. Like it was a lot. And
so I'm assuming this is how you ended up in the instance, which is where I first heard of you.
Okay, all right. I was curious about this because, like, right before it went live, you were like, "Hey, just by the way, I've been following you guys a long time, Garrett." And there's like this pause, and I was like, "Is this a good long time or a bad long time?"
No, it's like very much in the same way as you guys. Back in those days, I was super into World of Warcraft. For a time in my life, I couldn't even see myself play literally anything else. It's just like, no, this is the game. This is the game that I'm going to be playing for the rest of my life. And so I was just playing World of Warcraft and listening to podcasts. But there was always that one podcast that stood out, and it was The Instance. And I remember at some point you joined Scott in The Instance, and that's when I first saw you.
Okay, so that's how you found. Like, a decent amount of folks have that. How I found this internet stranger named Garrett story is through The Instance. It's like, I get that a lot. I get the Angry Chicken a lot. But these days, which is wild, like I just get Final Fantasy a lot. Like now.
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy as well. You guys really blew up with Final Fantasy for sure. I think like you said, I reacted to some of your stuff when I was trying out doing some React content in my secondary channel. But yeah, it was it's always interesting to see somebody come into Final Fantasy for the first time. But yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it's kind of the I feel like we're marching towards just kind of being, I hope being known, my dream is like, I hope we eventually, I think we're just getting towards like, they're just silly and fun to watch and not necessarily all
More
Final Fantasy
variety.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I don't know, like it's such a part of like my last going on 4 years now. And it's wild to think about because yeah, I don't know. I'm having a similar sort of thing with Monster Hunter right now. Like when I finally gave Final Fantasy like the MMO specifically, in case for some reason this is
Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, if anyone's their first time like watching this program or finding us, it's all the Rurikhan fans out there who are like, who are these two bozos? I was really resistant to playing Final Fantasy 14. I played a lot of.
I remember,
but
I remember because I heard in the instance specifically, because I think Scott got into it before you did, and you specifically said, "I'm never getting into that game" or something along those lines. Unless I'm misremembering it, but I think there was an episode where you said that.
Sounds about right.
At one point, Scott straight up was like, "You want to do a Final Fantasy podcast?" And I was like, "No." No,
yeah, exactly. I remember you specifically being very hesitant and Scott saying like, yeah, we can't transform the instance into just talking about Final Fantasy 14. And you even interrupted and you just went in like, yeah, I never want to do that. It's a very funny following.
So I apologize to anyone who likes me and Scott working together because I'm probably directly responsible for him not doing a Final Fantasy podcast. But it was a thing. And then there's the sure as shit quote that people love that was in a video with me and Kyle that we were doing together. The sure as shit I'm never gonna play. Hell, we sell a shirt of it now on our store. Like
I just got better pushing skills than Scott Johnson is what it comes down to. Ultimately.
There you go.
I can outlast. I am and I play the long con. I'm a dungeon master. I plant the little seeds and I walk away. And I did that same thing with Monster Hunter with our community's help. Because I didn't understand Monster Hunter. We are absolutely like content warning. We're in the honeymoon period. And because we've been streaming it and watching some guides here and there from our guests as well, I'm seeing some videos that are like, if I have to title the thing I'm sick of in Monster Hunter, and it's just SpongeBob drinking a potion. I'm like, okay, so they're like, there is a point where you hit a wall and you go, ah, and I'm aware of this. I've been through enough games. I can see cracks, but I don't understand them yet, and they're not affecting me yet.
I mean, it really depends on just how much fun you're having with it, I feel, because I never really hit a point where I'm like, oh, I'm burned out of Monster Hunter. And to give you guys an idea, World and Iceborne, which is what you guys are currently playing, I would imagine that you also have Iceborne because I've seen you use stuff that is only in Iceborne. I think
it was on sale for like $5.
Yeah,
so I was like, I guess I'll add it because we'll probably play it at some point.
So in that game, I played over 3,000 hours, and I'm still not sick of it. I could like start a new save today and still have fun playing it. I just don't get tired.
Whoa, hey, hold up. Sorry, big interrupt here. This is all my fault because I'm scrolling through your YouTube. I've been journeying through time going forward, and I just hit Heroes of the Storm Alpha. Hell yeah!
I played Heroes of the Storm. Like, so, are you guys familiar with TGN Squadron?
Yeah. The whole group that was playing.
I used to work with them. Like, I still have the bracelets and everything, Pally Time and stuff. Like, I worked for TGN. I actually organized all of their live streams for a couple of years.
Wow, nice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Cool. But yeah, I love Heroes of the Storm. It's one of my favorite MOBAs. It's a damn shame what Blizzard ended up doing with it, where all of the sudden they're just like, actually, you know what? Let's call the whole thing off. People were like making a living out of it, and then suddenly, wait, what? I remember this because we were doing a lot of collabs with pretty much everyone that was playing Heroes of the Storm at the time. And I remember that there were like some professional players and professional casters. They're like messaging us like, yo, this is really messed up. Like we had our whole lives like set up around this game, and Blizzard just like pulled the plug out of nowhere. It was weird.
On like December
I was-
16th, it was a time. It was a time. I will never
Yeah.
forget that feeling.
I was there, Gandalf.
Yeah.
It was an experience.
Anyway, pardon me.
No, keep going.
So some of the things I'd love to explore today is your journey through the Monster Hunter franchise and ultimately kind of look at Wilds through that lens. Because all we can see is the Switch axe works the same, the graphics are better, the sand is amazing, wins across the board.
The Switch axe is actually quite different. A lot of the weapons have a lot of new moves. It's just the way that they usually change the weapons is subtle, so that if you go from one game to the other, you can usually keep doing what you were doing in the previous game, and you'll kind of like get by. But they'll usually add or change a couple of things that will bring more depth to the weapon. So in the case of the Switch axe, you now have like a new move called the full release. I think I'm terrible with names, but it's something where he just like, if you're in sword mode, he pulls the sword back, charges up for a little bit, and then just does a motion of a bunch of swings, multi-hits, has hyper armor, and it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, there are different things, but my journey through Monster Hunter actually started in Monster Hunter Tri, which was the Wii game. Because back in 2007 was when I first took my big break from World of Warcraft, which was somewhere during Cataclysm, where I got so bored of raiding that I was literally watching. I remember that I was watching an Indiana Jones movie because I knew the raid so in my head, I didn't even need to look at the screen anymore. So I'd be like watching and doing like mechanics at the same time.
No.
And that's when I realized, like, if this isn't even stimulating enough for me to just focus on the game and I need some other stimulation while I'm raiding, I'm probably done with this game. I think it's safe to assume.
Oh,
So
man.
that's when Cataclysm is when I was like, I'm done. I'm done with World of Warcraft. And so the first thing that I thought to myself is like, well, I'm done with World of Warcraft, but I love fighting bosses, because I like the idea of fighting a boss and having tactics. And I had no experience almost in any modern games. And so I see the Wii, which was like the most popular thing at the time. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll buy one of those. So I bought it and I played like Zelda on it and some other stuff. And I remember there was this friend of mine that always told me about these amazing adventures that he would have on this game called Monster Hunter. And eventually they released the Wii version of Monster Hunter, which was Monster Hunter Tri, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the first Monster Hunter on a Nintendo console. And I go to my friend and I was like, so is this game good? Should I buy this game? And he's just like instantly, bro, this is the best thing since sliced bread. You don't understand. This is the best game ever made. Like, he was one of those super fanatics about Monster Hunter, right? And I was like, okay. So I buy the game and I hate it. I can't stand it because I don't understand. Like, I have the basic notion of RPGs, right? What do you think about an RPG? You go in and there's like a little bit of a progression where you're killing a couple of like small dudes, and then eventually it coalesces into one big boss fight for the level. And then you go into another level and there's small dudes and another big boss fight, so on and so forth. That's kind of like the way that I looked at RPGs. And so when you get the Monster Hunter and it's just like, no, just go kill this big monster. I'm like, so I'm killing the boss? There's no like warm up or anything. There's just like the big boss and that's it. I don't understand. And then there's the fact that the combat, like, for you guys, it might even feel a little bit clunky the first time you get into World. World is so much more fluid than any of the other games before it. So before World, it's really hard for you to understand how the combat mechanics of the game work because of just the sheer animation commitment that is behind everything that you do. And so, a lot of people call it clunky. It's not clunky because if you're a good player, you can utilize that with perfect precision. So I don't think it's clunky. It's just very hard to adapt to. And so I didn't get into it. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand what's so cool about it. And I hated it. And then eventually there was another Monster Hunter that came out on another console that I bought, which was the PlayStation Vita, which was Freedom Unite, which is a PlayStation portable game that you could play on the Vita because of some emulation or something that they did. And so I once again go back to my friend, because this is a very good friend of mine. And I was like, listen, should I buy this one? And then maybe you can teach me how to play it or something. Because my friend didn't have a Wii when I bought the other one. So I was by myself. And so I was like, how about I buy this one? It's only like €5. So I'll pick it up and then you teach me how to play it. And he's like, yeah, sure. And so a really surprising thing was you could do ad hoc multiplayer from the Vita to the PlayStation Portable, and it would work. And I was just like, my mind was blown away. Like, you're trying to say the Vita can communicate with the PlayStation Portable without going through an online server? We can do this straight, just console to console, and somehow this magically all works.
Oh wait,
and that's when.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I wasn't following for a second because I'm like, wait, isn't the Vita? Isn't that a PSP? But you're saying you had two models of PSPs and you're still able
no. The Vita is not a PSP. It's a PlayStation Vita. It's a different console altogether, but much more advanced than the PlayStation Portable. But because the game that I had on my Vita was a PlayStation Portable game, the way that everything worked, like the communication probably used the same protocol or something for ad hoc. And so we were able to just connect my Vita to his PlayStation Portable, and everything worked. And I was just like, I can't believe this is even a thing. And so that's when I got into Freedom Unite, which is a game that's even older than Monster Hunter Tri. But the difference is I had my friend there to kind of like hold me by the hand and teach me the ropes. And when he taught me the ropes, that's when I started understanding, okay, so I kill a monster, and then I have to kill it a couple of times to get his full armor set. And then I become stronger, and then I can go kill a bigger monster and get his parts. And it's just like a loop of until you run out of monsters to kill, kind of. And once that clicked for me, I was instantly hooked, and I played pretty much all of the Monster Hunters that came out since. The thing is, I was never able to play them for long periods of time because, like we established, I couldn't make content for them because of the fact that they would release with a big delay in the West. And then the other thing was also most of them were on 3DS, and I struggled to hold on to a 3DS for a long period of time. It's like if I'm traveling, fine, I can play the 3DS. But if I'm home and I have a big computer monitor in front of me, it's like I don't want to be looking at the 3DS tiny monitor. And you're supposed to play these games for hundreds of hours, and my hands would cramp as well. So yeah, it was a struggle to play the older games.
Am I seeing correctly in like this older one? This one's
That looks like Tri because it's got that looks like 3 Ultimate. It's got Nibble Snarf on it.
I'm seeing a real like kind of Final Fantasy 12 looking map here. Was this full blown like load screen every single zone? Oh my goodness.
Yes. Like and here's the interesting thing, right? Because you guys right now you have the maps of Monster Hunter World. World was actually the first one where you just have a full seamless map. Before World, every zone is essentially like a little arena where you fight the monster, and then you exit that arena, and there's a tiny loading screen before you go through the different zones of the same map.
And would the I feel like I know the answer to this. I'm assuming in these older games, when the monsters would flee, they'd go to a new zone, and you'd have to go through a loading zone to chase it down.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, that sounds rough.
Oh, no.
No, you think that's rough? It gets better. You needed to mark them with paintballs. And those paintballs had a duration, which I forget. I think it was like 15 minutes. So if the monster runs away, right as your paintball is running out and you didn't reapply paint, you actually don't know where you went. Unless you're like a seasoned expert and you know, okay, the Rathian moves from zone 5 to 7. I know she's going to go to zone 7. But like if you're a new player, which was me in the old games, I was just kind of like a noob. So I'd be like, oh no, I forgot the paintball. Ugh. But then there was a mechanic where in some maps, there would be this guy in a balloon in a distance, like in an aerial balloon, and you could wave at it. And he would flash you the monster's location for a couple of seconds, and you'd go, aha, he's in zone 7. Then you'd run over the zone 7. But the thing is,
that's really cute.
I like that.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, sometimes the monster would run away before you get there. So then you'd get to zone 7, but he wasn't there anymore. And you're like, no.
Oh my goodness.
And now you're running all over the map. You're running all over the map trying to find this monster. It was phenomenal. I have good memories. I know that for a lot of people, they think of the concept of paintballs and they're like, oh, that sucks. What if your paintball runs out and the monster runs away? It's like, yeah, that's part of the Monster Hunter experience. I've always liked that. I thought it was funny.
I totally understand that because I have my own, like I have stuff like that for World of Warcraft where there's a lot of like the old janky stuff in vanilla and BC that I prefer over the, the modern streamlined version of it. Like the big one being Hunter, like Hunter is just straight up more fun to play, I think, in the old versions of the game because you have minimum range and you have to learn how to, stutter step, and I love it.
There's more skill expression in the old hunter, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh no, I got into a long debate with 14 players last night about how I think positionals are silly, and skill expression got brought up a lot. So I don't want to agree with you because I don't want to give the positional.
You don't want to give ground.
But it's just, to me, it was just, there was more stuff to do. Like, I don't know. It's something I enjoy about it, about that, that era quite a bit. There's plenty of jobs where I'm like, yeah, Paladin was a joke in vanilla. I much prefer modern.
Thank God somebody said no. He's a joke now too. Yeah, I don't like Paladins.
Oh,
that's what you get. I hate them Paladins. Yeah, it is what I'm a warrior main. That's what you get.
Oh, fair enough. That's fair enough.
We've been paying taxes since vanilla. Okay, since vanilla we've been paying taxes. It's time to release the warriors.
Best tank consistently, expansion over expansion. How is that paying taxes?
No, that's not how it works. No, don't even try me. Like in BFA, I couldn't even get into dungeons that I had done like three levels above in Mythic. People wouldn't take me because I was a warrior. They're like, no, I want the big blood death knight with the big health pool, or at the time it was the monk. It was either death knights or monks. That's all people would take. And I was like, oh, I have this dungeon completed. You can check my Raider IO. I've done it at level 8. You're not going to let me do it with you at level 5? Okay. Yeah.
I was a Pally in Wrath, so I would just drop Consecrate and go make myself a snack, and I'd come back, and it was time for the boss.
Yeah.
So it was nice. Yeah.
Listen,
it was wonderful.
In Wrath, in Old War, I remember we were trying to do the hard modes. By the way, Old War, best raid ever in World of Warcraft, straight up.
Dude, Garrett believes that too, yeah.
You're just being agreeable right now, so all right.
And what, Kyle, you don't agree with this, Kyle?
Kyle never did it.
I didn't raid in Wrath. I graduated end of BC, so I had my time off from WoW for several years there.
Okay.
And StarCraft 2 came out. StarCraft 2 came out as well, and I was gone.
Yeah, but like we were doing the what was it, the little robot dude, I forget his name, where you push the big red button and then the whole arena sets on fire.
Oh, that was Mimeron?
It might have been. I don't know. It was the one where you push the big red button to access the hard mode or whatever it was. And we were trying to like prog that. And I remember we got to the Enrage, and the boss Enraged killed everybody in the raid except for the Paladin. The Paladin just straight up survives a hit for 1 billion damage because he has like that one thing, Ardent Defender or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's
and I was like, bro, what? I was like, what is this, bro? Like, what do you mean? You just automatically survive it, and it's automatically procced for you. You don't have to do anything. And then we look at the stats of that fight, and the Paladin had the most damage, the most healing, the most everything. And I was like, you're not even doing anything. Like, what's going on?
I can only agree from the healer perspective that I liked warriors. They gave me something to do. Those blood DKs, so boring. Not a thing I could do, but just wand away.
Listen, as someone who as you know, my love of Death Knights and Arthas and all that stuff, I have tried so many. They are so boring to play. They're just my least favorite tank in World of Warcraft. Like,
agreed.
Blood DK is so straightforward, and I also just don't think particularly well themed to what anyone thinks of as a Death Knight.
Like, the green one was never been my thing. That was my favorite. I like green.
Oh, I love it. You just know the colors. Yeah.
The green one.
The green one.
Holy sick. Frost Salve have been my favorite because I like Arthas, and that's the fantasy I want to have. And like OG Death Knight, when you could tank in whatever spec you wanted, that was aces.
Yeah. But I remember I made guides back then for every single Death Knight spec on how to tank, because that's actually how I got started on YouTube. Was at one point I wanted to play damage in dungeons. I was like, there's never any tanks. I'm going to make a video teaching people how to tank, and hopefully more people will tank so that I can DPS on the group finder. Turns out it doesn't work like that. Even after I taught people how to tank, they still didn't tank. I was like, why not? It's so easy.
I love that meta take on guides that it had this like sinister edge to it. That's wonderful.
No, I don't want to tank. I want you to tank. So I'm going to learn I'm going to become a tank to teach you to tank, so I don't need to be a tank anymore. That's fantastic.
I still wanted to tank. It's just I wanted to deal damage every now and then, and I could never do it because the queue was too long. I was like, why can't here, guys? Here's how you tank. It's so easy. Just do this. But nobody took me up on it. I was like, okay, fine.
Oh my word. So all right. So Get back to Monster
Yeah,
Hunter.
here's my question that I was having
Go ahead.
So expansions, we have World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, and jobs come out frequently, every 2 or 3 years. Is Monster Hunter like that? What's the most recent weapon that's been added, since the weapons are the classes?
So Monster Hunter is strange due to the fact that they have 14 weapons that they need to balance, and it's not like the weapons are the same. They change the moveset of the weapons pretty much every single game, even though some things are common. Usually they will change some stuff in the weapons. Balancing that is always a big challenge for the team. So the last time they added new weapons was Monster Hunter 4. I forget the actual year that came out. It was a long time ago, but that was the last time that they ever added weapons. And the weapons they added were 2 weapons, the Insect Glaive and the Charge Blade, which were the last weapons to be added to the roster. Now there's another Monster Hunter that has more weapons, but it's kind of like separate from the mainline Monster Hunter, which is Monster Hunter Frontier, which was an MMO version of Monster Hunter that had like its own separate team that was taking care of all of that. So it's kind of like, even though it's still Monster Hunter, it's almost separate from the mainline Monster Hunter entries. And in that game, they had a weapon called the Magnetic Spike. They had tonfas. They had something called an Excel Axe, which is a different version of the Switch Axe. And I think they had 1 or 2 more things that are kind of like a little bit niche that I'm not aware of, and some very strange mechanics about some of the weapons. But we usually don't count any Frontier stuff. So the answer to your question would just be Insect Glaive and Charge Blade back in Monster Hunter 4. And since then, they've never added any more weapons. But they have added a lot of mechanics to the weapons that significantly change the way that weapons work.
Okay, so getting back into answering Kyle's previous question, which is like, no, the weapons do change from title to title, but
yes,
it's probably in ways that are subtle enough that we, being essentially 2 weeks into our first Monster Hunter, wouldn't really pick up on.
You guys might not notice unless it's something like, for instance, the hunting horn, since the hunting horn is so brutally different from World to Wilds. But like dual blades will feel the same until you get to the grips with some of the new things that they're doing. Sword and Shield is also going to feel very similar, since the biggest change posted to Sword and Shield was Perfect Rush and Iceborne. And yeah, there's
playing in Monster Hunter World is Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
So.
I was happy because people were telling me that you were thinking about playing the longsword, and then I would have to cancel my appearance on the show.
But it's so cool.
Now, wait, hang on. Is this a multiplayer opinion or a style opinion?
No, it's a meme in my community. Everybody has this idea that I hate the longsword. I don't hate any weapons, but I just play into the meme because I think it's funny. And some people do get upset, which it is what it is.
Again, I've been playing this game publicly for 2 weeks, and people are already like, "Yeah, Garrett hates the hunting horn." I'm like, I don't hate it. It's not an aesthetic that vibes with me at all.
You don't like beating up enemies with a bagpipe? What's wrong with you?
It's
I might get there one day, but I'm a very aesthetically driven player with these types of things.
You're into guitars though, right, Garrett?
Someone tried this on me already, and someone already tried this argument. The guitar. I mean, yes, those are real. These are real behind me.
Yeah. See,
but I'm a gearhead. I like real guitars. Like I get excited about like a actual Fender Stratocaster with a humbucker setup, a Les Paul Jr. with a P90. Like, I'm a gearhead. I also don't want to break guitars. I don't want to hit things with the guitars. That hurts my guitar.
They don't break. They don't break. It's fine.
Well,
you're good.
Yeah,
they can't feel pain.
You're trying to tell me you don't want an electric guitar made from the skin of a Zinogre? Come on now.
I very recently, I think because my algorithm is getting trained, I did see, I don't know what monster it was from, some of the later hunting horns graphics, and I will say, all right, those are pretty dope looking fake guitars.
Yeah,
there's some really sweet ones.
And the thing is, you know how when you do stuff with the hunting horn, it makes like a sound?
Yeah.
The sound changes depending on whether or not you have a guitar. So if you have a guitar, it sounds like a guitar. There's like nice guitar picks as you're playing the tunes.
Yeah, the one that came across. Let's see if I can find a name for this. All right, this is the one I saw that I thought was cool. It's called Usurper's Growl. I don't know what monster this comes off.
Is it red or green?
Bluish green with like a mohawk on the back.
White mohawk?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's an
wow.
ogre.
Okay, I don't think we've met that monster yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing looks pretty sick.
Yeah, it is. That's the one that I was trying to sell you on. Yeah, there's this guitar from Zinogre. You'd love this one.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't know where I saw this because I was not hunting for hunting horns online, but it just ended up on my feed, and I was like, okay, shoot, that does look pretty cool.
If it helps, Garrett, I have accepted my fate, and I have the most hideous weapon I've ever seen in my life right now.
But you're still on Switch X, right? Yeah,
I'm on Switch X. Yes.
Swapped off Switch X. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What's the ugly switch axe that you're using?
The pink bat, like Palmello or whatever his name
Paulumu?
is. Yeah, dude. That is the only reason I'm even
Palmello.
slightly okay with it is because it kind of gives me a
It's not
Diamonds.
blast.
It gives me like a Diamonds Unbreakable JoJo vibe. So I'm like, maybe pink hearts, and I can kind of embrace that aspect, but it is hideous. The Jagras was so stylish with its little Godzilla line on it, but I had to move on.
Yeah, there's.
Is this the thing that has a giant heart on it?
Yes. Yeah, the very same.
Oh, this is horrible looking. I am so sorry. You know it's ugly if Kyle thinks it's ugly because I don't
Like,
Rurikhan, I don't know if you've
it
ever
looks
seen
like
Kyle's
a grandma's
glams
couch.
Rurikhan, I don't know if you've ever seen Kyle's glams in Final Fantasy 14, but him taking a stance on something being ugly is saying something. Yeah.
Damn, going straight for the glam. You guys know that. You guys know that you also have fashion hunting in Monster Hunter. Once you get into the higher ranks, you can change the appearance of all of your armor to armor that you like and stuff.
Yeah, what's that called? I recently heard the term.
Layered. We got
layered armor.
We have access to the winter fun time outfit right now. If we want to put away my Flintstone outfit.
So we just got to give you an idea where we're at. We just got to high rank. And we're fighting near Gigante. We flamed out on our Wednesday stream 3 attempts. We died all 3 times to near Gigante. Limped every single attempt. We were close.
Yeah.
We were close, but that bastard killed us every time.
In his little house in particular, his layer advantage is pretty damn strong.
Oh yeah. Because he kind of like goes up and he has that big move that he swoops down, breaks the whole scenery. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, the dive bomb.
Nergigante is a fantastic monster. Did you guys know that he won? If you were to take into consideration the votes of all the 3 regions, I think, which was like U.S., Asia, and Europe. Well, not U.S., Americas, obviously, but like. If you were to take into account that, Nergigante would have won like the 3 top spots between the regions in terms of popularity.
God,
really? Yeah. People love Nergigante.
Interesting. I'm starting to like pick up on it. Like again, I always come back to aesthetics. I'm very aesthetically driven, and I have very specific, strange tastes when it comes to visuals that I like. But it's just kind of how I operate. And the first time I saw him, like, oh, he's just kind of a horned monster with wings. I didn't think much of him. Now that I've been fighting him so much and I've been up on the model, I'm like, there's some nice subtlety in this. Like all the little quills, and particularly when he puffs up and like more quills come out. I was like, okay, all right. I think I'm starting to understand why this guy, on top of just having a reputation, because he will murder you dead. But
he's a very handsome ball.
He's growing on me.
When it comes to monster designs, I kind of feel like the Monster Hunter team is pretty much completely in their own league compared to anyone else, because they actually study what makes sense for the monster. Like they'll cross over creatures from the real world. Like for instance, no, I'm not gonna spoil one of the monsters you guys haven't seen yet. But let's just say that there's like certain reptiles and stuff. They'll like put together a reptile with a toad or something. And then they'll be like, okay, so this is going to work like this. And it's going to make sense because of this. So almost everything about the monsters has a reason why it works the way that it does.
Okay. All right.
And they'll actually introduce...
Feel free to just shout out monster nicknames, because our chat's doing it all the time and it means nothing.
The names in the room, yeah. We don't know these guys, right?
I mean, I was gonna tell them about the raging ape, but I figured we leave that one for later because they'll enjoy discovering it in Iceborne.
Are those like the 2 apes that I saw in the Wilds trailer?
No,
Or like
no,
two,
no, no.
like,
Those
red gorilla looking
no,
things?
that's a Jarrakan, but no,
Oh, okay.
that's a new
All right.
monster.
No,
That's
Oh,
only
that's
for
a new one.
wilds.
the one that
Okay.
farts. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. I've
Are
played
we talking about-
Sekiro.
Kongalala,
Oh,
Kongalala is not in World.
Oh, okay. Chad wants to know if we're talking about Pickle. I did meet Pickle off stream the other night while grinding. Sorry, Kyle. I've seen Pickle.
Oh, that's okay. That's
Pickle
okay.
is terrifying.
Yeah, you like pickle?
He's such a nice boy.
He's absolutely disturbing on a level that I didn't know Monster Design and Monster Hunter was capable of. He's
Awesome.
really, really gross looking. Yeah, he nasty.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
everybody loves the pickle. He's a big fan favorite just because of his relentless aggression. Like he will fight up against a monster that would be canonically stronger than him, and he's like, I don't care, I'd win. That's the way that he rolls, and sometimes he will win, which is impressive.
I was farming Radobon, high rank Radobon, because I've already been using like the upgraded Radobon Claw Sword and Shield, which has sleep. So I'm like, all right, F it. Like I'm.
Oh,
having
you're
trouble
doing
under-
you're
uh,
doing sleep style.
Yeah, and I also wanted the guard that's on I think 2 of those pieces because I'm running Sword
okay.
and Shield, and it overall was just an upgrade from the Pookie Pookie set, which was the first high rank set I made. So I was like, and we were getting owned on Near Gigante, so I was like, all right, I need to.
I mean, if you're using Puke and Nergigante, you kind of deserve to get slapped around a little bit.
Okay, all right. So well, we just got the high rank, and,
But
and
hang on, I
take-
do have a
to me-
question about
take your
this.
time.
This is actually something I really
Go
do have
ahead.
a question about because you have played a lot of Dark Souls. I'm
Yes.
coming at this from a very sort of FromSoft mindset. So
It's a very different game.
absolutely, but some of that it helps me like getting locked into attacks, particularly playing Bloodborne and kind of the aggression of Bloodborne. It helps me just
Yeah.
sort of avoid shields and find a rhythm that worked when I was farting off swinging my axe and the boss is flying away, kind of like Bloodborne. I just go, well, that's on me for spamming the button. I'm locked in an animation. But when we got bodied by Gante, according to Chad, everyone was like, go farm. You got to go farm. What are you doing? Whereas my Dark Souls brain went, well, I just met the guy. 3 deaths? We only just met.
I mean, this is going to be something that is going to vary from player to player, and I know that this is something that I don't know if you guys have been following, but Preach has also been doing. He did a Monster Hunter world journey as well. I'm assuming you guys are familiar with Preach.
Yeah, we've had him on a bunch of times. I haven't watched any of it, but we were recently made aware that like he just completed his
Well,
first kind of
and like
playthrough.
an insane, like noteworthy playthrough of like not looking at chat at all. So he just did by his own intuition and what he thought the game meant.
Yep. So this was something that some people in his community were very frustrated because he decided not to upgrade his gear when he got to one of the most hard monsters in the whole game. And so what I did was I just told him, listen, you can kill the monster with the gear that you have. And there were even people in his community that had done it. And it's just like, you can do it. There's nothing stopping you from doing it, but it's going to be hard. And this is where every player is going to feel different ways. So some players will meet a challenge in Monster Hunter and they'll be like, okay, this is too hard. I'm going to go farm. Other players will meet a challenge in Monster Hunter and be like, this looks doable. I'm going to keep doing it. And they'll keep going at it. So if you want to kill something, you can keep going at it until eventually you kill it. I mean, this is kind of like Dark Souls in a way where you can kill everything with like a crappy weapon, depending on whether or not you can hit the damage thresholds and stuff like that, because certain hunts do have a time limit. So that's
Sure.
kind of like where you kind of have to set yourself up for success or not, right? But you can usually tell, like you said, you guys saw him limp, Nergigante. So it's like, yeah, he's limping. We're close. We can totally get him. But every player is going to have a different idea. So for some players, the second they meet a little bit of friction, they'll want to go upgrade, which is fine. It's a correct way to play. Other players, they'll meet a little bit of friction, they'll push through. And then if eventually they get to a point where it's like, okay, now it's too much friction, now I'll go upgrade. But essentially, there's no wrong way of going about it. The only thing that you can do wrong is like, if you have, for instance, a weapon and you're using skills that don't have any effect for your weapon, like ballistics on your switch axe, like that's not going to do anything for you. Then you are doing something wrong. But other than that, yeah, I think you're fine to play however you want. It's just a matter of being able to recognize when, okay, maybe the gear that I have on right now isn't sufficient. It's just the thing is for the community, because so many people are used to just like, oh, this is being a little bit harder, probably means it's time for me to go upgrade. The second they see somebody fail a quest, the first thought in their mind is like, oh, you should be upgrading now. Doesn't mean that you have to or need to. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's I think
cool.
that I think I'm that type of player. Like, because like another thing I wanted to talk to you about is just like, why do you think there's so much of a crossover with MMO players? Because I've definitely noticed that, and like to me, I'm like, I don't know, it's probably folks who like getting invested in their character that they made. They're probably going to enjoy this game, and they also are probably more inclined to play MMOs. It's probably people who like the gear grind. That seems like a crossover. Probably people that like boss fights like you. That's a big crossover. But I think I'm that type of player, like what you just said, which is like, oh, okay, all right, tried it 3 times, we died. I think it's time to go get better armor, because I like a good gear grind, and I also, and particularly in this game, I require my gear to match, because holy crap, do you look like a clown when you mix and match? Like you just fell into a Happy Meal factory and you just decided it was good.
It's like Burning Crusade levels of, you know, that gear from what's it called, the red
Hellfire
place.
Peninsula.
Yeah, you get that Hellfire Peninsula clown gear, and you're just like, oh man, I used to look so much better than this like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I've rolled in with my dungeon set from vanilla, and oops, I'm a clown. Okay, here we go.
So the thing about it is, like I said, there is no wrong way to play. If you want to upgrade all the time, you can upgrade all the time. That's pretty much up to you. But in regards to whether or not there's a crossover, one of the things that I've noticed is there's definitely crossover between Final Fantasy XIV and Monster Hunter. And one of the reasons is because there is a crossover event between 14 and Monster Hunter, which you guys probably did, the Rathalos event in 14, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was adorable.
It was the first grind I ever did in the game, because all I knew is that monster is from Monster Hunter. I had never played a Monster Hunter game. I love the Rathalos design. And like when World was coming out and it was plastered all over the place, driving by like the local GameStop, having it in the window, I'm like, damn, that's a good dragon. I know it's a wyvern. I'm not that into Dungeons and Dragons. It's a dragon. Like, as far as I'm
whatever.
Concerned. Like,
it's a big red dragon.
In Warcraft, like proto drakes are my favorite mount in that game. I love the way they look. I would take a T-Rex, slap giant wings on it. That's my favorite monster design. And so, like, anytime I've ever seen a Rathalos in passing, I'm like, shit, that's cool. And so I think I'm not a huge fan of the look of Final Fantasy XIV dragons. Like, I think they're a little goofy. The
fat dragons.
Yeah, you
really
got the
like
fat ones.
Like most of them,
like
or like
ones.
the tiny little like the Shadowbringers mounts. Like those are so goofy looking. But like it's here or there. Like whatever. I really like the concept art for like the big Heavens Wars dragons. I don't think they translate as well in game. But whatever. It's an opinion thing. So when I saw that you could get the Rathalos, I was like, I need that. And I had the worst luck in the world. I ground every single scale. It never dropped. I never once saw the mount actually drop off of the boss. So that was the first grind I ever completed in 14.
So I grinded Rathalos in 14, and when I ground it, it was like most of the people were doing it for me. They were coming with me just so that I could grind the thing for myself. Some of them wanted to get it as well, but they were doing it mostly because I was like, oh man, I really need Rathalos because I love Monster Hunter, right? So we're doing the thing. And I think I was at like 42 scales or something. I think you need 50 if I'm not mistaken. And somebody else joined in, like a random person that also didn't have Rathalos. And they join in and the actual mount drops. And I was like, well, I'm not going to need on it now. I'm so deep into the grind. So this random person joined this for like a couple of hunts and he just gets the mount. Everybody else was so deep in on the grind. They were like, well, we're going to get it. Like 6 more kills. We're going to have it. So it's whatever.
It's not the storyline we want. That's great.
Yeah.
But so the thing about it was, right, so they did this thing, and what was interesting to me is some of the people that I was playing with when I was grinding Rathalos, and that's the thing that you always hear from the Final Fantasy XIV community. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do all of the extremes except the Great Hunt. I'm never doing the Great Hunt. No. Everybody hates getting the Great Hunt. And it was interesting because I get in there, and because the mechanics are like Monster Hunter, I'm seeing everybody get flung all over the way. And I was like, no, I know this. I know everything about, like, that's the tail swipe coming. I can see he's now going to charge forward and lunge. I know exactly what, and I'm dodging everything fine because I know all of the movesets of the monster. So it was interesting. And then I get carded because, we don't have the whole thing about, oh, hide behind this herbivore creature or you die. We don't have that one in Monster Hunter.
Yeah. I'm after we do our first high rank Rathalos, which we haven't done yet. We did a high rank Rathian, but not a high rank Rathalos. I want to go back and do the 14 trial one more time just to be like, okay, how just did they translate this? Because it's been over a year, so my memory's pretty foggy.
Easily.
But I remember what you were talking. I remember there were potions. I remember cutting the tail off, but I don't remember much else about it. So I want to see how it stacks up.
So 14 got Rathalos. In the meantime, we got the better deal, in my opinion, which was we got the behemoth fight in Monster Hunter World.
That's cool.
Our chat's been really hyping that up. It seems like a lot of folks that watch us are excited to see us go and do that eventually.
Yeah, because it basically works like a boss fight, like a trial. It essentially works like a trial, which was really weird for a lot of Monster Hunter players because there's an extreme version of Behemoth as well. And the extreme version was like the hardest thing in Monster Hunter World, pretty much.
Cool.
In base Monster Hunter World, Extreme Auth, I think, is still the hardest piece of content. Like, I actually had to bring out my MMO hat and raid lead this thing where I was like, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to play White Mage, which meant I played Sword and Shield, and then I had this skill called Wide Range. So every time that I heal everybody in my team. So I'm basically healing everybody all the time. And I'm just like, so you guys just don't stop attacking. Whatever you do, just keep attacking so that we meet the DPS meters. And then it's like, whenever we get Charybdis, you need to run away and go away from the center of the thing. So I had like this whole strategy planned out before we eventually killed it, because it actually took progging, which I was surprised with. It's not just go in there and kill it like you do every other monster. You had to prog through it. And it was a really fun time, but not everybody liked it. A lot of people were like, I don't like these MMO mechanics in my Monster Hunter. But me being an ex-MMO player, right, I'm like, this is right up my alley. Let's go.
That's
boss
awesome.
Fights. I can get it. Yeah.
It's all good.
But I think that's why there might be a lot of crossover between 14 and Monster Hunter. It's because of that collab, which I think that Yoshi P has already hinted that he wants to do more collabs with Monster Hunter. See, I don't know if you guys are aware, but when they did the collab, Yoshi P actually went to, I don't know where they met up, but like he met up with the Monster Hunter team and they did the hunt with Yoshi P playing with them in the actual game.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I don't, if that got mentioned, if I don't remember it. That does seem like something that someone in chat would want us to know.
Well, the thing is, I believe it, and that's pretty cool. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I forget if he played Hammer. I think he might have played Hammer, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It was really interesting, but that would be why I think there's a lot of intersect between those two communities. The other reason is I think that at least for me, as somebody who played a lot of MMOs, one of the things that always frustrates me is that, for instance, in World of Warcraft, you had the Great Vault, right, which I think is absolutely terrible for the game because you're fundamentally grinding and then you're waiting for your loot at the end of the week. Like it's a mobile game or something that you're paying a monthly fee for. That doesn't make any sense. And it always frustrated me that in the beginning, the vault would be like, you get one random item out of a pile of like 200. So the concept in Monster Hunter is like, no, I want this big fire sword. I'm going to go hunt the big fire monster. And then I get the parts to make the big fire sword. That is just so incredibly appealing. You being able to target everything that you want to go get. Now, there are some things that are RNG in the game, obviously, but the ability to target things has always been one of my favorite things about Monster Hunter.
Yeah, that's something that really struck me the other night when I was playing was there are no item drops. And that means you engage with the crafting on a level that I don't in most games because simply in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, I could make something today, but the second I beat the next boss or even turn the next corner, I'm going to get an item better than my crafted thing anyway. Or at the end of the game, it'll replace my crafted gear with something better. Why should I bother?
And in this game, you have to craft.
Exactly. And now that I figured out investigations, that's not a big deal anymore. I got a little stuck on the Shamuses a few nights ago because I just didn't know that was a thing I could do to get their plus scales, and I learned something that day.
It's strange because sometimes you'll be like, oh, scales plus, and if you're a new player, you won't know. Okay, so scales plus, that means high rank. I have to kill high rank. So you killing low rank Shamus, for instance, is not going to give you the skills that you want. You need to go kill them in high rank. And the investigations just give you extra materials.
Well, then now I'm a psychopath too, because I know where they live. That's the difference too. As I was wandering around being like, well, where? Oh, the pile of 3, let's get them. And now I know exactly. Run right through, and then hey, happy home, and I'm done.
That's one of the things about Monster Hunter is that you level up a lot as a player, because if you take away your armor and your weapon, your character doesn't have any passive stat gains. It's just your armor and your weapon. That is what is influencing your stats, your defenses, your skills, and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's mostly your experience as a player to know, okay, this monster has an opening now that I can use this big move on. And that is how you get better. So like your second time around, you're going to be way better regardless of using good gear or not.
I love that. That's where the Dark Souls connection really works for me. However, one big divide is health pool. It's kind of fixed. It can be expanded, but for the most part, this is not an MMO where your health is just going to exponentially grow over the course of your adventure.
No. Yeah, no.
With
you guys have been eating food every time before a hunt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and if we forget, oh boy, will chat remind us.
Is it true that
because
camp food is lesser? When Handler makes us food, it's not as good as Cat's making us food. Is that true?
Depends on a couple of things. The only thing that really matters is what food is fresh. So like if you use a gourmet voucher at the Handler, it's as good as eating anywhere else. So because like
gotten into
gourmet
food vouchers.
Oh
yeah, there's so the way that it works is like the food has a chance of giving you a buff. Now, if the food is fresh, the chance of you getting that buff increases. So for instance, if you go, I think it's 4-piece red meat, that will give you attack up M, which increases your attack. You always get attack up M or defense up, depending on the food that you are eating. That one's guaranteed. But then there's a skill. So 4 pieces of red meat will give you a chance of, I think, Feline Rider, which is it's easier for you to mount monsters, to get monsters into the mounted state. But there's a chance that skill activates. And if the food is fresh, then that chance is higher. So that's how that works. And the fresh food is marked with like a little green thing on top of the food. And so what gourmet vouchers do is they make all the food fresh, which also gives you bigger increases to stamina and health and all of that stuff.
Interesting.
And if you instead of gourmet vouchers, you use regular vouchers, they ensure that you get the skill. So either of the vouchers will ensure that you get the skill. So the thing that I said, there's a chance of you getting Feline Rider. If you use one of the vouchers, you will always get Feline Rider, regardless if the food is fresh or not fresh or whatever. But yeah, there's quite a bit more depth to the food system than just eating. But eating at camp with the handler or eating at the canteen is pretty much the same thing. The thing is, a lot of people in the community don't like the handler, so that's probably why they're telling you, yeah, the handler doesn't know how to cook. Handler bad.
Well, Kyle's handler is Mr. X, so I feel like
I love my handler. Handler's fabulous.
Oh my God.
I'm running around with Chun-Li. Kyle's got Mr. X in his corner.
Yeah, Chun-Li is good. I'm very partial to the summer outfit, so yeah.
Oh, that's like the bathing suit one.
Yeah, she's in the bathing suit. So
wait.
That's when everybody would make fun of the handler until the summer outfit came out. Then people were like, maybe she's not so bad.
Maybe she's not so bad. Huh.
Respectfully, nerds.
Interesting.
Exactly.
I feel like with the maidens in the Dark Souls, everyone just kind of says this one's mine, that one's yours. We're all fine, but it does kind of seem like there's some active handler hate focus.
Yeah. But the reason is also because of the handler's personality. A lot of people don't like her personality. It doesn't even have to do with her looks, which I can understand. I'm still a handler simp though, so
I didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then again, like Now we're going to have
Let me
the
just make
new
a note for
handler.
what I'm titling this
The new
episode.
handler.
What I'm titling this episode.
Oh yes, yeah, the new handler.
This is the new handler, Alma. And
Wilds is overflowing with cute characters. Like almost everybody in World is a certified goblin. Like everybody's like
Jesus.
sun bleached, like wrinkled to hell and back, which I love. Nothing wrong there. But Wilds is just everybody's cute. Everybody's cute in Wilds.
Yeah, I'm sure you're thinking about her, right, Gemma?
I'm not specifying. I'm
partial to
stating
whoever
generally,
the Shield Maiden in the back is. We haven't seen much of her in the beta, but
if this
the
was
Shield
Dragon
Maiden,
Age, that
Olivia?
would be my romance track.
The
Yeah,
full plate, short hair, like there.
With a big hammer?
I believe Hammer, yes, but
I don't know if we've seen her fight.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I've seen her fight.
It's Olivia. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Getting into Wilds a little bit there, it seems like they are definitely upping the, it's easy to call it kind of the Final Fantasy 16 aspect, but they're definitely going with a darker, more rich story. How is that feel like as a longtime player? Do you trust the Monster Hunter World devs to make a story like that, or is it kind of like, well, hang on, we don't do that around here. We're not used to you being so serious.
It's strange because the story of Monster Hunter has always been more about the lore. It's never really been a major focus of the game, and most of the people don't come to Monster Hunter for the story. My favorite story so far in Monster Hunter was Monster Hunter 4, and the reason was because you're traveling through different villages, whereas in most Monster Hunter games you have your one village and you just are in that village the whole time. And in 4, you would actually be traveling through villages, and then at one point you transform your little sand ship into a flying airship, and then you go to more places, and it's just really cool to experience multiple villages. That's what I liked in 4. But ultimately, the story of Monster Hunter doesn't usually have a lot of stakes. So one of the things is the community is just like, yeah, we don't know. We're kind of just like wait and see what they're cooking. Because like the story of World and Iceborne are not like, oh my god, these are so amazing. Especially if you played like 14. The story of 14 is phenomenal. It's one of the best stories I've ever experienced in any form of media, pretty much, right? With the exception of Dawn Trail.
It's fine.
That's not what I'd call it.
Very well.
But,
entitled
yeah.
opinions.
I've never heard anyone say that before. I'm shocked.
I'm
sure.
We're blown away.
No, but like the community is just like on a wait and see. But at the end of the day, a majority of people aren't coming to Monster Hunter for the story, so I don't think a lot of people really care that much whether or not the Monster Hunter team delivers on the story, because they want the hunting action at the end of the day. But I'm curious, on a personal level, I'm super curious to see what they do with it, because this is one of the times where they specifically said, yeah, we want to focus more on telling a narrative. It seems like it has something to do with the fact that Arkveld is supposed to be an extinct species, and you guys might not be aware, but there's like this whole philosophy of the Hunters Guild that is behind the whole Monster Hunter thing, which is the guild has this philosophy of achieving balance. So every time that you guys are given a quest to go hunt a monster, now for us as players, we look at it like, oh, I just want to kill this monster and make a funny hat. That's ultimately your objective. I need to make these boots. I need to make this weapon. This monster got to go. But from a lore perspective, you are going to kill this monster for a reason. Like, it's unsettling the balance of nature, and you're restoring it back to the way that it's supposed to be, because this monster is out of control. It's moving out of its territory. It is threatening people, or it is threatening other ecology in that location. And so you have to put it down.
When I accidentally ran across Pickle while grinding Radabon, got back to town, and just paragraph after paragraph of like, it's invasive, we got to do something about this thing, like it's gonna upset the balance. Like, absolutely, yeah, I love that kind of shit, by the way. Like I've spent more time playing Horde in World of Warcraft. However, my first character for a few years was a night elf, and there's a lot of night elf quests that are like that, where it's like,
about the balance.
We're not happy that we got to go kill this thing, but it must be done. And like, go play a night elf. Go start a vanilla night elf, everybody. There's actually, and like, read your quest text. There's actually some dope shit in there.
To give you an idea, for a random person who is not a hunter, or even if they are a hunter, just goes off on their own and be like, oh, I feel like killing this Rathalos over here, and they kill the Rathalos. that's poaching, and the guild will send a knight to kill you. That's the penalty.
Oh, that's actually kind of
So it's like, yeah. So
that's
it's
rad
like
lore. I
you,
like that.
you can't just go around butchering monsters, canonically speaking, because the guild will send an assassin to put you down because of the fact that you're disturbing the balance of the ecosystem. Because the entire guild is based around balance in the ecosystem and all that. So the idea is, if you read through the trailers, they kind of explained that, oh, we thought that this Arkveld monster is an extinct species. We thought he was dead. And then you have the little kid who just wants like vengeance because the monster attacked his village or whatever. And he's just like, oh, give me your weapon. I'll do it. And that's kind of like what appears to be the story that they're telling, this balance of like, oh, but this creature is extinct. We can't just kill it. There's no other creature like this, right? We have to study it. We have to ensure its survival and all of that. So that's kind of like the story that it seems that they're trying to tell. And, I'm curious to see how they tackle it, because for me, one of the things that I always found interesting is I think the guild has quite a bit of a shady side to it. And I want them to explore that aspect of us, like, show us the seedier sides of the guild, because the guild is this overarching organization that manages all the hunters, gets to decide which monsters live and which monsters die. And there have been hints in the past in other games that they're not always doing this out of the kindness of their hearts. There are certain monsters that they'll remove the records of the existence of this monster. Like one of the monsters that you guys will eventually fight in Iceborne, you will see in the story like, oh yeah, the guild burned the records of this monster because we didn't want it to create a panic. But is it really because you didn't want it to create a panic? Or is it because this monster is something different and we don't actually know? But yeah.
That's cool. So killing monsters.
There's quite a bit of lore to it.
Killing monsters in exploration mode is not just illegal to chat. It's illegal in the lore sense, and you should get an investigation to make sure you get good loot out of that particular maneuver.
I believe there's a Rurikhan video that suggests not killing monsters over and over again and instead picking up investigations.
Yeah, what I said is because back in the old months, that video actually exploded for some reason. This was very early in my Monster Hunter content creation thing.
I peeped that the views were healthy.
Yeah, I was very surprised with how successful that video was. But the point was, back in the old games, right? So you kill a monster, and then you need to farm the monster multiple times to be able to get it set. And so what you do is you go get the optional quest for that monster, and you just keep repeating that quest. But in World, as you kill monsters, you start getting investigations, and investigations have more rewards. That's why I just said, stop doing optional quests, do investigations instead, because you get more rewards and you'll get stuff done faster. And a lot of people were like, oh, this is really good. Thank you. I didn't know. Because the thing is, everybody comes in from Monster Hunter to Monster Hunter, and you're just like used to, okay, I need to grind materials for this monster. Let me go get the optional quest. And investigations were kind of like a new thing at the time.
What if I don't have an investigation for that monster, though? Which has
then you have to go do the optional. Yeah, then you have to go do the optional and hope that you get an investigation after you kill him.
I got really lucky the other night. I had when I was grinding Radabon, I had like a single investigation for a Radabon that had, I think, 3 charges on it. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
And then you just get more. And the thing is, as you do investigations, more will be generated. And even just picking up tracks from the ground, those will also generate more investigations.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I'm always drowning in investigations, and I feel like you aren't, Kyle, because I'm like grabbing every footprint I see, and you're usually just beelining for the monster as fast as you can.
Yeah, if you're picking up like the little traces of the monster and stuff, that counts towards your investigation generation thing.
Very cool. Okay. Very cool. So getting it, so the wilds, looking at wilds as a longtime player, is there anything in there that is really exciting for you? Anything that's like, oh no, don't change that?
So I'm a little bit of a controversial figure because I'm kind of like an older guy, and so I kind of miss more challenge and less quality of life. And I always get shouted down by a lot of people in the community because they're like, "No, stop, boomer! Don't stop doing that." So I do feel like there's a lot of convenience. One of the things that I've complained about, but I don't really care that much. People, whenever I express my opinion, people have a tendency to over exaggerate the things that I'm saying. But like,
that's just called content creation.
Yeah, I find it somewhat frustrating, Yeah, like people are saying in chat, the resupply. It's like, I don't like the fact that we can constantly resupply in the game. I feel like it makes it a little bit easier. So like, let me tell you a story, right? Back in the day when I was playing old Monster Hunter, and I was just like a little nooblet, I'd be fighting a monster, and I'm like, oh, I've exhausted all of my resources. And you can't just go and get more at a camp. It doesn't work like that. You have to go in with the amount of resources, and if you exhaust them, that's it. You have no more. So then what can you do? There are resources in the maps. You can go and you can collect herbs, you can collect mushrooms, because back in the day you needed herbs and mushrooms to make potions. And then you collect honey, and then you combine that into a mega potion. So I had to stop fighting this monster to go and collect these resources to make potions to be able to continue fighting the monster. And to me, I thought that was cool. Most people see that as a boring chore, which I can understand. I think everyone's opinion is valid. It's just the way that I look at it. I'm not a big fan of being able to resupply at a moment's notice anywhere you are in the world. But it seems like that's going to be the case from what we've seen in the beta. It's super easy to just like resupply. Another thing would be like the sacred mount that we have, which I'm sure you guys have seen.
Yes, I was horribly confused by it for like an hour because every time I would accidentally hit the button, I just started getting a taken somewhere, and I didn't know how to stop. And turning off auto run in the menu didn't do what I thought it would do.
Yeah, he's basically a chocobo, except he's on autopilot, constantly taking you
really
places.
Cool looking mount design. I love the way that thing looks.
Sacred looks amazing, and so the thing about it is like. So you guys by now will have learned that there are certain things that Monster Hunter has, which is what kind of like sets it apart from a simple boss rush game, right? So you have to maintain your stamina by eating meat, otherwise your stamina pool starts going down. If you go into a cold area, you're expected to drink a hot potion, otherwise your stamina goes down. Or if you go into a hot area, you have to drink a cold potion, otherwise you start burning slowly with your health. So there's mechanics that are for immersion that kind of like separate it. One of those mechanics is sharpening. So the fact that you can just call your sacred and sharpen on top of the sacred just to me removes the mechanic of sharpening because you're never in any danger when you're supposed to sharpen. But then again, they've also revamped the way that sharpening works. So it doesn't bother me that much because it's just so easy to sharpen now that whether you do it on sacred or in the ground doesn't really matter. But it's those things, right? It's a lot of quality of life, which I think is really good for newcomers that maybe don't understand all the mechanics of Monster Hunter. But for older players like me, it feels like, oh, I kind of like having to deal with sharpening in the middle of a fight because it creates tension. Because it's like, oh, I can't hit the monster as hard anymore because my sharpness is lower. Or maybe I'm even bouncing off from hitting the monster because he's got thick hide and my sharpness is not good enough to carve through the hide. And I have to stop attacking and think about how I'm going to sharpen. In the case of World, it was actually interesting because you could even run to a bush, start sharpening on the bush, and you'll be like kind of invisible a little bit. And the monster's going to have to like sniff around to try and find you.
Oh,
and there's
crap, I never
mechanics
thought about that. Thank you for the tip. That's actually, I'm going to use that on our next stream.
Now the big change
in the bush.
The thing in Wilds is kind of thematic though. Like instead of 1, 2, 3, sharpen, it's now 1 that much sharpen, 2 that much more sharpen, and 3 complete your sharpen.
And you can interrupt it at any point in time. You're not locked into the animation, so you can roll out of it. So literally, the monster can charge through you, and you dodge to the side, and you instantly start sharpening. Then the monster charges again. You interrupt your sharpening, but you got like 2 swipes off, and you're like, good. And then you can keep fighting. So they just made it way more seamless, which again, I think it's fine. It's just one of those things that if I had it my way, I would have not done it. But there's a reason why I'm not the director.
Yeah, there's an exchange with it. And I think of Bloodborne again, where early on the game when you suck, going and farming potions felt awful, but as you got better at the game and you realize I haven't gone farm potions a while, I actually kind of like this system, you feel rewarded for your now better skill, like getting in the bush to sharpen, so that skill ceiling can go up and your expression with the game can go up.
Right now in World, I don't have it, but I'm very excited to get anything that has speed sharpening on it because of how sharpening functions in World. And that is a carrot that you can put at the end of a stick because of how sharpening functions.
What if I told you that you can fish a fish that will sharpen faster?
Oh, I don't want to.
Wait, it's a consumable.
Wait, so you
don't want to fish? So right now I'm.
Do you eat the fish?
What?
Why do you use the fish? How does the fish?
Yeah. It's a sharpening fish. He's got like good scales that will help you sharpen. And there's even one. There's one version.
Hilarious.
Yeah, there's one version of the fish that I think is like 2 swipes. I don't actually do this because I don't have the patience to fish. But there's another one.
We can stay friends.
There's another one that's straight up just like 1 swipe and you're good to go. And I farmed that fish for a little bit for some of the tougher fights of the game so that I wouldn't have to deal with sharpness. But that's the thing. Like, I worked in order to be able to make that mechanic more manageable. I don't like the mechanic just becoming more manageable without me doing nothing. That's the thing.
Sure.
I feel like it needs to be a give and take.
I like it when it makes sense just in, I don't know, in theory, like being able to interrupt your sharpening just makes sense. Like, if you, why am I forced into hitting it 4 times? Like, if a giant pink T-Rex was bearing down on you, yeah, you'd probably stop sharpening and move out of the way.
Right, but it's your fault for hitting the button, so now you're locked into it. So there's a
game mechanic.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like
real
what makes
life,
sense
yes.
within the confines of the world.
And if you and I were playing Dungeons and Dragons and you're like, can I stop sharpening? I'm like, no, I'm a dick DM and I've ruined your day. But sometimes, and particularly because like the reason the weapons feel the same is because I feel like there's that baseline fighting game design. Maybe it's Capcom's influence, but
Oh, it absolutely is. Each weapon is like a character from Street Fighter almost. Yeah, absolutely.
And they deviate and they have cool new graphics and cool new events, and maybe there's a grab attack in this one and a finisher in that one, but ultimately that baseline stays the same, and it's really relatable to get into. So the mounted sharpening came in with Rise, right? That was kind of one of their...
No. Yes, Rise. Sorry. I thought you were going to say Wilds, but no, it came in with Rise with the Palamutes.
Yeah, so you had your dog and you were getting on the dog and things were pretty streamlined there. And we definitely see some Worlds verse Rise kind of energy. It's hard to compare the two as a consumer from the outside to be like, well, one was available on the Switch, and that's convenient for one reason. And one is Worlds, which is a game that feels a lot... Well,
so World was made for what Capcom calls the home console. I think they even call it like an HD product in their investor stuff or whatever. So World is an HD product, whereas Rise was always designed as a portable product. And then they ended up porting it over to PC and to the other consoles and whatnot. And since then, they have said that like we want to focus on PC as like the main development platform, and then branching out from there to all the other ones. So I don't think we're going to see more Capcom releases that are like, okay, it's exclusive to this, and then it goes to that. And I don't think that's happening anymore.
I think the industry as a whole is just kind of heading in that direction,
which I think is a good thing. I've always been of the opinion that like, yeah, sure, I will play the games where they are because it's whatever. If I want to play a game, I'm going to play it where it is. But I've never been one to be like, yeah, I get to play Bloodborne and you guys can't play Bloodborne. I'm like, man, I wish everybody could enjoy this awesome game. That's the way that I've always looked at it. I'm like, I just wish everybody could play this. Why not? Like, it's an amazing game. I want more people to play it. So to me, that's a good thing. But getting back to the whole thing about Rise, Capcom always did this thing where they have a more grounded game and then they have a more experimental game. So to give you an idea, Rise is kind of like the experimental game, whereas World is the more grounded. World and Iceborne is more grounded, more simulation. And then Rise and Sunbreak is kind of like, no, this is our balls to the walls, super arcadey, which is why you have special attacks that you actually do. So you have even a little gauge of the wire bug gauge that fills up, and then you can do a special attack. Like in the case of my weapon, the Gunlance, I would have an attack in Sunbreak where I literally just propel myself towards the monster and unload everything the Gunlance can do. So that would be all of the shells, the worm stake, the wyvern fire, all at the same time. And it's just this completely crazy move. And then there are other weapons that would have even crazier moves that would have ridiculous animations. The Greatsword has an animation where it's like, I just deal a ton of damage with this one hit. And if you hit me while I'm doing it, I deal even more. So people would set up these bombs before they would hit the monster. They would have like a little small bomb they'd put in the ground, and then they would time their attack so that the bomb would explode before their hit goes off, and they would deal like redonkulous damage.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
absurd.
So there's a lot of
that's fun,
crazy
like-
arcadey stuff.
And breaking the game is fun. Like that's the joy of Diablos and all that kind of thing
Yeah.
too, is getting OP gear and getting weird with it.
Yeah.
That was like the first game I was like, oh, this reminds me of Diablo. But third person. Like, do I want a third person Diablo? Like, this is cool. Like the just like the going having the place, like having to go back to town to like sell your stuff. Like, you know, if you're making stuff, make stuff, and then in the case of just how Monster Hunter functions for co-op, it's like, oh, I'm also going to go back to town and like make a party. I don't think 4 works that way. I haven't played that much D4, but I played a ton of 3. And that's I was surprised that I was thinking of Diablo a lot while playing this, because nothing is a loot pinata unless you think scales are loot, which they are.
I mean, there is a loot pinata in the game. You guys haven't gotten there yet. There is a loot pinata that actually straight up drops gear.
Oh,
which I complained about when they released that. I made a video and I said the name of the monster and then problem, and I explained I don't like this because when that monster came out, there was a specific weapon that I needed to get, and you couldn't get it any other way than doing this monster. So for 2 weeks straight, in every single minute that I had of free time, I was running that monster. And I only got it like on the last run that I could do, because after that run, the event was going to end.
Wow.
And that's when I got one of the items that I wanted. And I was like, I hate this monster. I hate it so bad. I never want to do this again. But yeah, that's when they went a little bit into the RNG stuff. They since then did another raid, because that was one of their raid encounters. Since then, they've did another one, and it was way better with a lot less RNG, which they've kind of learned from it as well, because they're very good at taking in community feedback. So to give you an idea, in Iceborne, there was one point where they do these promotional posters whenever it's like an anniversary of the franchise, and so they made a new render for one of the old monsters of Monster Hunter, which is called Fatalis. And they made a new render for Fatalis. And so everybody gets super excited because like, oh, they made a new render. They're adding Fatalis into Iceborne. It's happening. And the developers were like, no, we never, what do you mean? And everybody was like going insane, complete frenzy. So they were like, okay, we'll do it. And they did it. They made a brand new Fatalis encounter that was not planned at all, just because people in the community got excited over it. And not only that, they made like a whole quest line with cutscenes and whatnot that would eventually lead you to fighting Fatalis, which I was super impressed. And I always thought that was part of the plan. And then eventually somebody from the team actually told me, no, that wasn't planned at all. It was just like people got so excited, they just did it. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's great.
Oh, I love that kind of a thing. It feels in line with content creation. I don't know how you feel about this, Rurikhan, but like just like the give and take of planned versus unplanned, like particularly if you're live, like, you know, like we were live like this week. What was it, Tuesday, Kyle? And we were like, oh, look, we got so many comments on our last video, which was we polled everybody for improvements they'd like to see for Final Fantasy 14. We got absurd amount of comments. We're like, oh, let's go live and let's actually like look through some of these and like have a chat with our audience. And like the whole time everyone's just like, MTG set got spoilers. The MTG set spoilers are out. Would you like to, you guys should just go look at that. And I'm like, but that's not what I planned to do. And eventually I was just like, all right, Kyle's got it up. Let's just look at the MTG spoilers, because that's what people want. It's this give and take. Like, well, Kyle and I are both like, we have a lot of differences between us, but we're huge planners. Like, we both just like the plan and execute on the plan. And
no plan survives contact with the enemy, as they say.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't work.
But chat, we do not consider you the enemy, except for you, Steve. You know what you did.
You know who you are.
What you did.
So you said that there's like Garrett's always making car analogies. So now they're in my head too. You got your sports car and your SUVs. Your SUVs, you want to sell as many as possible. Family car, everyone's going to play it. Everyone's got to have that one. And then you come out with a fancy sports car that entices people who might not need a new car, but it's fancy and it's fun to drive.
This analogy is because there's the big unit seller, and then there's the thing that's not going to sell.
I get it.
The enthusiasts are going to love it.
So
I just don't think that a lot of people would consider World to be the SUV.
yeah, but is that kind of like, because you said that Rise got weird, but it's also the one that everyone says first Monster Hunter game. Rise is super approachable. You should start there, and I did.
I mean, the thing is, every new Monster Hunter game that comes out usually is the most approachable game. So like when World came out, that was the most approachable game. When Rise came out, that was the most approachable game, because they always try to improve the tutorials and the onboarding process, even though it's still always very hard for people to truly grasp everything that is happening. That is where the community comes in, and we make all these videos with guides and stuff like that to kind of like get people in on it. But yeah, basically every new Monster Hunter is usually the best entry for people. I think the only one that probably wasn't the case was Generations, because Generations was very complicated for people that were coming from previous Monster Hunters. That's when they first added this thing called styles. So you had hunting styles that you had to prepare, which would change the move set of every weapon, and there would be 4 different ones. That one was very complex and was not super beginner friendly. But other than that, every new Monster Hunter is usually the best entry point for Monster Hunter. So right now, I'm saying right now, next week, the best Monster Hunter for newcomers is probably going to be Monster Hunter Wilds.
But when
if I had to guess.
But when it came to like all the articles and everyone talking, when they said, "Do you want to play Wild? You should play Worlds now instead of Rise." What's that transition and translation from Worlds to Rise or to Wilds? That seems through line.
It's because, like I was telling you, there's usually a more grounded game, and then there's a balls to the walls game. Rise and Sunbreak are the balls to the walls game, and then Wilds is going to once again be a more grounded game. So if you want to get ready for Wilds, it makes more sense for you to play World, because it's going to be a more seamless transition. Whereas if you play Rise, you're going to be thinking about switch skills, wire bugs, and there's none of that in Wilds. That's why people say that Worlds is a better entry point. And I think that to a certain extent, even Capcom sees Wilds as kind of like the next logical step for from World.
Yeah.
And Rise is more experimental in nature.
I mean, it's just, as someone who's very new to it, like it feels like the hype is just pure vibrations for Wilds coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Like folks are really freaking stoked. And in a way that, like, I'm just getting a sense that they're not going to fall off. Like, I mean, no shade by this, but last year, like, there was like 3 days where a lot of folks were like, "Oh, new Dragon's Dogma." And then one day after it came out, I never heard about it again. But I do not get that sense with Wilds. Like, I feel like it's gonna have staying power, that people are just kind of planting their flags. It's like signing up for a new D&D campaign. I feel like people are like, this is gonna be the rest of my year, and I'll see what other games I can fit in. Like,
I think that the Dragon's Dogma thing made me very sad, because I love Dragon's Dogma. And I love Dragon's Dogma 2. My time with Dragon's Dogma 2 was phenomenal. A lot of people didn't like it because it's a very out there game where there is this concept of you just going out into the world and actually having an adventure. And for a lot of people, they're like, no, I want to fast travel to the location I'm supposed to go to. And that's just not that game. And that's what people wanted. And that's why a lot of people fell off of it really fast. Now, I loved it. I do think that it had a lot of problems. Like, it didn't have enough large monsters for you to fight. They should have had at least 5 more large monsters or so, and it would have made a massive difference. But yeah, I get why people fell off of Dragon's Dogma 2. Unless you're like a super hardcore fan, it was bound to happen. There was actually, because of the negative backlash that game got, there were people in the community that quit content creation, that they were just focused on doing stuff from Dragon's Dogma 1, which was a very niche game. Like, very few people ever really played or gave a chance to Dragon's Dogma and Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And then there was such a negative backlash from the internet because of the performance issues that Dragon's Dogma had, because of the fact that Capcom kind of released microtransactions out of nowhere, which the US content creators were briefed that these microtransactions were going to exist. The EU content creators were not. We received like different emails. Yeah, it was super weird the way that thing went down, because I basically had a bunch of people coming into my videos calling me a liar, and I was like, well, no, I can't share this email with you because it's confidential email that I got sent by Capcom. I can't share this, but I promise you, nobody told me anything about microtransactions. And yeah, it was super weird. But yeah, with all of that backlash that ended up getting generated over Dragon's Dogma 2, I remember there was at least one or two content creators that were just like, I'm done creating content for this game, because they would just be making videos, being excited about the game. Because of course, the game has problems. There's still people that are going to enjoy the game. And everybody would just jump into their comment sections to slam them down. It's like, how dare you make videos about this game? This game sucks. Game is bad. And these people are just like, bro, we used to have this niche community. They would get like very little views on their videos, but they were happy just making these videos. They would just have this niche community with Dragon's Dogma 1. And as 2 exploded, there was just like so much vitriol that they gave up. And I was like, oh, that sucks.
That happened. I mean, that happens with like any game that gets negative pushback, regardless of size, right? And I think it's more obvious with something like that, because it's like you just get recreational outrage enjoyers that have probably never touched a Dragon's Dogma game in their life, but they watch some streamer who also doesn't play the game complain about the newest, latest, best, because they're just drama hound chasers that they've incited their larger audience to just go and, I guess, make it their personality to complain about the game to people who are actually involved with it and know what they're talking about.
It was also very much in the conversations being had at the time. I remember I made that mistake with Helldivers 2. It came out, phenomenal, fun game. That store thing that was just in-game currencies, did not need to pay any money, looked a lot like a real store. Also, the game's being like, for democracy and finance the war. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Oh, God, the game's full of money. And it really wasn't all that bad. There's still talk about the season's passes and all that. And rightfully so, as consumers, we're sensitive to these things after years and years.
Yeah, I agree. The Helldivers thing. It's funny to me though, because people usually get upset with Helldivers when Helldivers first came out. People always like to ask me, okay, is it pay to win? And I was like, yes. It's just a percentage of like how much pay to win are you willing to accept? Is it a big deal? No. It's not a big deal at all, but you can, at least at launch, I don't know what it's like now. On launch, you could buy certain things faster than you could acquire them in-game. And you even had certain things that would be in the store that would have different stats than what you get in-game. Was it a massive difference? No, it was like, I don't know, 0.1% or something, but it was pay to win. And at least in my opinion, that's the way I look at it. Is it 0.1% stronger? Then it's pay to win. It's like, but people get upset. Yeah. People get upset, and I'm just like, just because it's pay to win doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to tolerate it.
And we also are finding first of all, the indie explosion's amazing, and there's games that you don't want to deal with the corporate stuff, you can go over there, but also like hardcore WoW. And now we have these niche versions of games that come out where people want to avoid that kind of thing until time marches on into the future.
I like particularly the AA industry. AA industry is kicking off on all cylinders, and I'm pretty much here for it. Like in 2023, in 2023, my favorite game was Remnant 2, which is a AA game. Most people probably barely even heard of it, and I was like, this game was awesome. It's freaking amazing. But yeah.
Remnant 2. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I enjoy that I would even consider a AA game. I'm not sure. I can't think of the last one I played.
Would Lies of P be AA? It's nice.
I think it kind of is AA. Yeah, Lies of P. Yeah, I with Lies of P, I had a love-hate relationship. I love to hate it, and I hate it to love it. Yeah, it's weird.
Right, like
I platinumed it.
Okay. So you were mad at it like Dark Souls 2 kind of mad, where you didn't like certain aspects, but still pissed you off enough to be better.
It was weird. There were some bosses in there that I was like, I don't know, man. And then they nerfed them, but I beat one of the harder bosses twice before they nerfed them, and then they nerfed them, and I was like, now it's much better.
Yeah, and you got the badge that you beat him pre-nerf, so you're good to go.
Yeah. I beat it before nerf. You get the T-shirt and everything.
Yeah, that's interesting. Some folks are saying Refantasio. Maybe like I don't know what the budget for Refantasio like, so I can't. That.
I don't know if I would consider Atlas. I think Atlas games, I would probably consider them AAA just because of the sheer quality that they always bring to the table. But to be honest, I don't know. Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is a good example. It's an indie game. Everybody considers AAA. It's an indie game from
Yeah, that's
Larian
just
Studios.
nuts. That's an
They
insane story.
crushed it.
Yeah, they
Absolutely crushed it.
out of the park.
So-
I would entertain Metaphor. It's my first Atlas game, and I haven't beat it yet. But I'm like, they could have a few more cutscenes in here. It seems like it was made to spec. Like, you know, they didn't just throw money at the problem. You can see where they kept it reasonable.
So I'm curious, why did you guys start playing World right about now? Is it in preparation for Wilds? Are you guys jumping into Wilds?
I think it was to find out if we wanted to jump into Wilds, because we tried World like 2 years ago. It was Monster Hunter got a lot of, and this apparently my experience, anecdotal though it may be, from our community, there's just a ridiculous amount of crossover. Monster Hunter, other than like us doing a retro playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, Monster Hunter is probably the most requested game that we hear from our community to go play. So and then like and probably slot a couple other Final Fantasy on top of that. Like 4 and 6 have huge fans, like, because Kyle and I have never really played any other original Final Fantasy games, and so that's highly requested. We get that a lot. But like for the first year of us like playing through Final Fantasy 14, and particularly after we did the Rathalos trial, like folks were just like, "You should play Monster Hunter. You should go play Monster Hunter. You guys love bosses." Like when we did our first extreme in Final Fantasy, and we really liked it, and then we started doing just extreme after extreme after extreme. Folks were like, y'all are boss nerds. You should really just go and play Monster Hunter."
Yeah.
So we tried it 2 years ago, and I thought it was the most horrendous co-op experience I've ever had. I thought it was designed by someone who had never seen the internet before. It was almost as bad as Nintendo when it comes to designing an online experience. And so like you can see, I think Kyle swapped to my view on our most, like, our first Monster Hunter World stream from 2 weeks back now, and I had 4 hours on another save, and 3 of those hours were Kyle and me just trying to get co-op to work, and then we went and killed Jagras, and then that was the stream for the day. And then night, I sent Kyle a text, and I was like, "Boy, that sucked ass." I was like, "What a horrible experience." And so yeah, I just walked away with a bad taste in my mouth, and I was just kind of annoyed. And you get those experiences when you're streaming, and like a lot of times when you're streaming and you're live and things go out of your control, oh boy, it can be magic. You can just roll in things you did not expect, have a great time. But every once in a while, when you are legitimately frustrated, and a bunch of people in our chat are telling you shouldn't be frustrated and calling you an idiot, it doesn't help. and you just kind of go, all right, this might just not be for me.
And it's not good content because you're just frustrated. You're trying to figure out how things work, and at the same time, you're being pressured by chat because they know exactly how it works because they've done it a million times. But I understand why, because the co-op experience, and this is definitely feedback that we as a community have sent back to Capcom. The co-op experience of World is not very good because of the fact that, okay, you have this thing that you're doing now, and it's only a one-player quest, and you can't bring your friend along. And you're like, well, why? Why is it a one-player quest? Because they don't tell you this, but I'm telling you this. Because there's going to be a cutscene midway through the thing, and they don't want to include your friend in the cutscene. So you have to watch the cutscene, and then your friend has to go on his own quest and watch the cutscene, and then one of you has to abandon the quest and join the other friend after they watch the cutscene. And it's like, it's not hard, but it's super unintuitive for somebody who's just starting out. It makes no sense.
And in the early bits, the investment isn't there, for one. There's not the I'm cooking breakfast with my eyes closed. Like, I can just navigate the menu, bop, 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 bop. I know exactly where I'm going, what I'm doing now. But the real issue that kind of, I think, held me back was the cycle of the two games, crafting and hunting, doesn't exist yet for those early quests. So when you go into town together and you work these menus and you watch the cutscene and you get together, your Jagras fight is 5 minutes and you just spend 45 minutes doing setup. Eventually, though, you reach equilibrium, or even more so, where you're crafting, getting together, putting together your menus for 30 minutes, and then you hunt for 30 plus minutes. And now that sauce is in the air. It feels good.
The loop is established, and the loop
When
is
you-
really satisfying.
When you start like building out your shopping list, which is like, okay, I'm going to need some materials from Rathalos, and you start doing like turns. It's like, okay, what monster do you need? Okay, you need Baroth. Let's go kill Baroth. And then, okay, now let's go kill Rathalos. Now let's go kill Baroth again till everybody gets their
an arena
materials. Yeah.
popped. Let's do it a second time
Yeah.
because we got an arena.
We'll bust that
Like,
out.
yeah.
Oh, investigation, double our chances. We got
Yep.
Clifford and Beetlejuice together in one. Let's get them both while we're here. Wait, is that your Roly Boy going by? Okay, let's go get that first. We only have an hour. And that exchange, really starts to seduce you. I went off, so we had we had a bad experience. I went off.
Yeah.
I had the PlayStation Network for Demon Souls to have like the souls walking around and all that over Christmas. And one of the PlayStation Network games was Rise. And I have a 5-year-old son. And he was like, "Oh, what's that? What's that big bird? What's with the bird in the picture?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's check out Rise." So we played about 16 hours of Rise. He was watching me. We watched some Terminal Montage, which is a animated cartoon. Bird up, teaching us a lot of the memes and just the cat feeds you and the guy gets all buff. And we're like, "Well, these are pretty fun." And he's having a laugh. I'm having a laugh. So I look up a bunch of rules about 2 weeks ago. I come to Garrett like, here is the set rules of how we get this done and the order of operations of how we go in. Don't even bother eating. Just go in. Run, cutscene. Everybody out. Get back in. Fully buffed, fully ready. And we crested that hill.
Yeah, we even started like massaging it. Like Kyle is just like, "All right, I'm just going to join you every time. So Garrett, feel free to eat when you go because you can just stay in after the cutscene. I'll just join you when the SOS notification pops." And yeah, like everything we just talked about, like even you were talking about like we both got our wish list, taking turns on what monsters to fight.
Yeah.
And then Kyle, you popped in and you're like, oh, and then you start getting excited because you get the arena pop or you get an investigation.
It starts flowing.
As harsh as I just was about the UI, all of that excitement is coming out of the UI also. So like once you just kind of push past it and learn the funky parts, the less intuitive parts, like it gets the hell out of the way really quick. Like when you actually do just give it the time and you spend a few minutes to learn what the heck you need to do and understand the system. Now we don't think about it at all. It doesn't feel like it gets in the way anymore.
And it's like once you get the story out of the way, because you're dealing with that because you still have story quests. Once you get the story bit out of the way, then it's just hunting. And you're just like, okay, I want to go make a Zenogre set. And you're hunting Zenogres. And you're like, oh, I really like this new skill that is in this other set. Let's go do that. And then eventually there's even like raids and stuff like that you can do, which raids are still just 4 players. Don't get excited about, 16 hunters. Like, no, that's not how that works. There is a mechanic. Yeah, there is a mechanic where you do have 16 people working towards a common goal, but it's in groups of 4. So they're all in their instances of 4 and everybody's working towards the same goal. This is what they consider a raid in Monster Hunter World.
What's I'm Googling right now. How many types of weapons are there? 18? All right, I want 18 player content.
No, 14. What do you mean 18? There's 14 weapons.
What game is
you
this?
might be looking at Frontier.
That might be.
Frontier is the one that had more weapons.
Why would that be the first Google? I'm also want to defend myself. I moved immediately past the AI overview. I ain't getting got by that. But the first actual result is for Frontier for some reason. All right, I want 14.
Yeah, but no, there's 14 weapons. You want to see each player using their own weapon? I think that would be insane. Because even just with 4 players, if you just get 4 players, you're wailing on the monster, and the monster is barely moving. When you get 4 players, it's not really a hunt; it's a beatdown. You're going up to the and it is like if you guys ever do a 4-player hunt, you'll see that it's like the monster gets up, he roars or does something, somebody starts hitting it, the other player starts hitting it, suddenly the monster's like, you hear a crack because you broke a part. Monster staggers, then somebody breaks another part, staggers to the other way, somebody stuns it, falls over to the side, gets back up, you break another part. It's a straight up beatdown when you have 4 players wailing on it, unless it's one of like the really tougher monsters. Then it can kind of like pull its own weight. But like some of the mid-range to low-range monsters, you put 4 players in there, it's a beatdown. It's not a hunt. I actually think that 2 players is like the ideal thing for World. I think it's really cool.
It feels
2
good.
players.
It definitely
having a great time.
Yeah.
Like
because it's not super hard because the monster every now and then focuses on the other one, and that gives you openings for DPS. but at the same time, you're not beating it to the point where it's just like falling over repeatedly, which are just like, well, you know.
But it's cool. Like our spec, as it were, Garrett's on the sword and shield, so he's mounting a lot, and I'm on the switch axe, which means I'm getting up there quite a bit too. So we have a lot of very cool dynamic bosses taking off into the air with both of us holding on moments.
So
it's fun. I'm really enjoying it. To put a cap on the like why you playing it now and the trajectory of having a bad first experience. Like now I'm having this moment of like, man, this game kind of seems like my shit. I kind of feel like I should have been playing these games a lot sooner. Because
did you know that last year Capcom just went out like around January or something and just said, guys, what if we all just played Monster Hunter World again? And the community, like that was it. That was literally the tweet. They were like, what they did was like, oh, we're doing this thing called Return to World. And everybody was like, is there new content? No. It's just like, let's just play Monster Hunter World.
What if we just do it?
And everybody did. Like they got over, it was 170 something thousand on the peak concurrent players on Steam. Everybody just playing Monster Hunter World for no reason. There's like, how about we play Monster Hunter World? And everybody's like, that sounds like a really good idea.
What a wonderful idea. I love that idea.
Other studios being like, wait, that's allowed? We can just do that?
You can do that?
That's something you can do? I mean, it's like so much stuff in life is like that. Like a lot of meetups and stuff. It's just like, well, is anything new? No, we just want to get together. Okay.
Yeah. Like, that sounds good. Sounds like a great idea. But yeah, it worked out for them. Like everybody did the Return to World thing, and it was a phenomenal time. Like everybody was playing it. I went back and I did a whole nother like playthrough from the beginning. But yeah, it's just Monster Hunter has a very unique community that just kind of like brings you in and tell you like, listen, here's why this game is awesome. Let me show you the way, right? Everybody wants to kind of like teach you and show you a thing that is very special to them. Like usually the first step is like, listen, here's why you got to play the Gunlands, okay? You need to understand. Everybody needs to be playing the Gunlands. So why did you play the Switch X, Kyle?
Because it was easier than the Charge Blade, for one.
Really?
Yeah.
Charge Blade's so much more fun. Personally, I like the Charge Blade so much more.
I see the Charge Blade as a intimate dance with the enemy, and I think there's a lot in there that I'm really going to enjoy when I'm like, oh, that's the backslash growl flip with the 2 attacks on the back end kind of thing. Like I have that sort of knowledge of Dark Souls.
You mean the super amped elemental discharge?
Exactly. Well, that's the part I got. Like I didn't get bored of it. I saw it go 4 90, and I went, I could do this all day. This is my favorite thing in the world.
What about you with the Sword and Shield, Garrett?
I thought there was a chance I could end up there just because I like Sword and Board in most games that offer it. Like it's just a thing I like. Lifelong tank player in WoW and now 14. I tried not to tank at 14, and
I mean, if you really want to tank in Monster Hunter, as much as I would like to say you should play the Gunlance because that's my weapon. If you want to tank, you should play the Lance. Lance is the tank weapon.
I went in expecting either to do Charge Blade, Longsword, or Sword and Shield. Charge Blade. These are based on first impressions, not hours or even minutes. So first impression, the Charge Blade gave me a sense that it kind of had a rotation and that I would probably get a little bored.
No, it's not really a rotation. There is kind of like the super amped elemental discharge, you kind of build up to it. It's not like a strict rotation. It's more like you're building up the files and then you can unload the files using super amped, but you don't have to unload the files. You can hold on to them for a good while. So it's not like, oh, I need to release this right now. It's like, no, you release it when it's appropriate. But yeah. I personally love the Charge Blade.
Pretty much every single weapon that had a shield, I was like, holy shit, this is cool. Like, and I think, that's coming out today, right, Kyle? I don't want to scoop myself.
What?
We got a video.
Yeah, we're
going to
put that as live as soon as the stream is over. Exactly.
Oh yeah. So sorry. After we're done with the podcast with you, Rurikhan, we're putting out like our our talk about our first impressions of every weapon except for the ranged weapons, and I talk about
Yes, that's right. To hell with the ranged weapons. Yeah, that's correct. That's I'm joking.
No, that's what
now the meme is going to be that Rurikhan hates ranged weapons.
It's already the meme for us because like we watched.
We didn't want that. I want to be in the monster's crotch. It's an intimate exchange.
It's not that I don't think they're real weapons. It's that just 100% not what I want my first Monster Hunter experience to be. I want to be smacking a monster. I tried the bow on the Wilds beta, and holy shit, the bow is cool. I really like the bow. That might be what I keep on the sling on my mount in Wilds.
Bow is very powerful.
It was just like I kind of had a vague idea of where I wanted to go. Everything with a shield was pretty much a hit, and I include Charge Blade in that. But I was surprised that I came out being like, wow, of the shielded weapons, Charge Blade was probably the one I was the least interested in. I was expecting to hate Lance because I don't.
It's because the Charge Blade is a very technical weapon, and if you're just like trying to mash buttons, it's always going to feel terrible. Because like the whole thing about the Charge Blade is, you guys play on controllers or mouse and keyboard?
Oh, controllers.
Controllers,
yeah.
Thank God. So circle or B, and you hold it and you release it the second it finishes charging for the Charge Blade, and it will do the charge double slash, which is like. And that gives you like a bunch of file charges that you then put into your shield. And then after you charge your shield, then you can charge your sword. And then after you charge your sword, then you can deal additional file explosions on the monsters, which is like regular attacks. And then with the charged shield, you can unload all of the files with the super amped elemental discharge. It sounds way more complicated than it is. If you guys watch my video, you'll 100% understand it.
Okay. Yeah. I also had some lovely folks sending me like their gameplay, like showing me like, hey, try Charge Blade just one more time. Like it's the fun thing. Like, I don't think it's annoying. Like it's really nice. Like there's so many like really proper legitimate enthusiastic people, like enthusiasts, like properly enthusiasts. They're not coming to this with like internet opinions. They don't have an axe to grind.
They just want you to play their weapon. It's the thing. It's like a team. Everybody wants everybody else on their team. It's like, no, everybody needs to play the gun lance. Everybody come play the gun lance. We're the best ones.
And I think that's where my like it's too hard for me right now comes from, is because it's stylish. But what's truly stylish is that backstep shield is up when you didn't press shield up that actually blocks. Yeah, I want to do that. Points. I want to do the guard point thing, but I know I'm not ready for that part yet. So I like playthrough 2 kind of idea. When it comes to Wilds, that spinny Attack on Titan Levi shit is so cool with the dual blades.
The dual blades.
Oh my God. That it's going to be hard not to just go straight for that. It's so sweet, and it works so well with their new target system. What do you think of the target system? The wounds and all that.
The focus mode?
Yeah.
I like focus mode a lot, but I wish they would have implemented it better. I did like a whole feedback video on why I think there's a problem with focus mode. Because what happens is, for some weapons, focus mode is problematic because when you're holding down left trigger, your hand is not free to do other things that you might need to, especially if you're doing like regular combos and stuff. And so there are some weapons that benefit more. So in the case of the greatsword, for instance, whenever you're charging up greatsword attacks, they let you turn the camera with the left stick because you're rooted in place. You can't move. So it makes sense. You can just turn the camera with the left stick so that you can adjust, because your thumb is going to be on the buttons that you're pressing. So that makes sense. And I was like, yes, this is perfect. But then on other weapons, they don't do that. And I'm just like, why? I'm also rooted in place when I'm doing this animation with the gun lance. Let me turn the camera with the left stick. Why can't I do that? So it's a little bit inconsistent in implementation. But from a design standpoint, I think it's really, really good. And it lets you do some really crazy things.
Just getting the reticule, like, even if there's not a wound yet, up, just and being able to turn is just, it feels.
Being able to turn, yeah.
It's nice. Because already in World, like, I never lock on. So with like when I raise my shield up, I was just also immediately instinctively pulling the left trigger so I can kind of adjust. And now that's to me it feels like the focus system just now kind of gave that to everybody, and I really like that.
Yeah, it's pretty much the intended thing. That what the developers said is, we want there always to be something that you can do to adjust. Whereas before this Monster Hunter, it's like, no, it's animation commitment. So you can steer your attacks a little bit, but we're not going to let you 180. And now they just said, no, you can be charging your attack this way and then turn around and attack backwards if you want to. That's fine. And I was like, oh, that's crazy, but okay.
I mean, like, it still takes skill. Like, you still got to like line it up right. Like, it doesn't make it easier potentially, but if you know to do it, if you do it correctly, if there's still timing elements. There's still charge attacks.
Yeah, there's still a ton of skill expression for sure. At least from what I could tell in the beta. Yeah.
And in like when it comes to wild swings, like you turn slow, which I was like, all right, generous enough. Thank you for the quality of life, and I appreciate even a little bit.
But in wilds, can't you just turn even with wild swings?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like when you're doing the focus thing, you can be wild swinging, and now with the focus kind of hold down, you can sort of drift to chase the thing, but not much.
I would expect you to be able to just turn at a whim. I haven't really tested too much of switch hacks.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
I'm trying to. What's the? I'm blanking on the name on the sword and shield combo.
Perfect Rush.
Perfect Rush. So
you're trying to learn that?
I was using it a bunch, and then I stopped using it because I watched a guide, and I think it might have been an old guide that like straight up didn't mention it. The guide still was helpful though because it made me so much more consistent with mounting. Because it was focused more on that side of it things, and then I'm wondering, I'm like, oh, maybe it was just an older guide because I don't remember when it was made. Because I didn't mention Perfect Rush. So now I'm using Perfect Rush again, particularly like when I'm like, all right, I've already mounted.
Did you master Perfect Rush?
What do you consider mastering?
So are you just like mashing the button when you do Perfect Rush?
No, I'm timing. I'm waiting for myself
You're
to
timing it. Okay. Yeah. That's the way. It took me a long time to get used to that. Like I think I spent at least over a week, like just practicing that over and over and over before I was like, okay, now I can land it consistently, because that was a brand new mechanic to the sword and shield at the time.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely times I screwed up, like in an actual fight, like because you're in the shit. But yeah, what I'm trying to dial in now, and it's a personal joy working on this, is like that realization of like, in the back of my brain, I'm thinking about hitting that timing, but then, oh shit, monster's doing something. This is no longer about finishing my combo. It's about knowing I now have a window to roll the shit out of the bad thing that's about to happen. Yeah, and I really like that. And that's what I'm working on right now, is like trying to keep my greed in check. It really just boils down to I met near Gigante, so things are going. It hurts.
You know your back hop that you do with the sword and shield? That thing's got iframes.
Yes. The first time I ever blew up a barrel, I did it right, and I haven't been able to do it right since. Like, I don't know what my problem is. The very first time I was just like, I saw someone do this on YouTube. Smack, backstep, felt like a god. I don't know. And now I'm like, I think I'm in my head. I think I've got the yips. Like, I can't, I can't do it now.
But I still think that in Iceborne, Sword and Shield became actually one of the more complex weapons. Like, guys are talking about, the charge blade. I was like, no, properly playing Sword and Shield in Iceborne, I really felt like, no, this is a super technical weapon and people just don't understand. So, for instance, you can draw your weapon into a back hop if you do a correct sequence of inputs. So you can be running. Yeah, you can be just like running, sheathed weapon, and you draw your weapon into a back hop. This was tech that I was experimenting with, and I was like, so what you do is you kind of like, you draw into a block by pressing the right trigger, if I remember correctly, and then instantly do the back hop input, and your character will draw into a back hop, and then you can either, go into the Perfect Rush or go into the mounted attack and the slam down with the shield, and it's really cool.
Thing to try. Yeah, usually like my favorite thing lately has just been like doing the charging slash, or what? It's the gap closer. Forget what it's called.
Advancing slash.
I'll just start with an advancing slash, immediately be backwards, and then depending on what's going on with the monster, if I want to mount, I'll just go into like the long key hold and pop and mount. Or if the monster's down, that's where I'll perfect rush.
Here's another really toxic thing that you can do with the sword and shield. If you mount, you don't have to instantly perform the whole finisher. So when you start bashing on the monster's head with the finisher,
just why?
Just hit it twice. No, yeah, just hit it twice and then stop a little bit, then hit it twice again, then stop, then hit it twice again and stop. You can keep bashing him for a little bit, but it's important to figure out when he's about to go down because you do want to get that last hit. So eventually you want to like finish it, but yeah.
Oh, gotcha. So when you start, like when the animation starts getting to the, I'm about to knock the monster down, you can actually
you can stop.
It's in.
Yeah, it's one of the few weapons that you can do. It's not like a massive advantage, but you do get more KO on the monster because that's the thing. When you have a blunt hit on the monster, that can do a KO. So for instance, Kyle, unless you're using exhaust files on your switch axe, you can't get KOs. But Garrett can get KOs by using the shield bashes on the monster's face.
So when I'm mounted on the head, use B instead of Y?
No. Your mounting finisher is always a shield bash to the face.
Gotcha.
I mean, like, if you're not mounted, because you can do shield bashes, right? If you press forward and B or circle, you can do like these shield bashes. Those can KO the monster.
Oh, I didn't know that. Shit. Oh,
like a hammer, right? Because a hammer is a blunt weapon. Your shield is also blunt. Now, the downside of this is, say you have a weapon that has a ton of elemental damage. The shield attacks don't deal elemental damage, only the sword attacks. So there's like all of these little nuances to that.
What about non-elemental attacks like sleep and paralysis?
That is also just the sword, as far as I'm aware. Okay. Yeah, because the shield, because of the fact that the shield does KO damage, Capcom said, okay, you can do slashing and KO in the same weapon. We're taking away your elements and ailments from the shield. So yeah, the shield just does raw damage. So the more raw damage the weapon deals, the better it is for the shield.
Okay. Time to take notes. Like I see you, Pasky. I've actually been taking notes. This is the show. Also, the wonderful thing, it's recorded. I can play it back.
Yeah. No, but there's tons of little things about Monster Hunter that there's little niche mechanics for each of the weapon where you can do sick stuff with it. That is really, really fun.
Oh, rad. Well, I want to check in with you because you've been. I know we said 2 hours. We're at 2 hours. You get on time?
It's fine. I'm good. I can keep going.
Okay, because you've been super generous, and we've been asking questions. We got a few in our Discord for you.
Keep going.
Okay,
I'm good.
All right.
Like I said, around 2 hours, but it's like the reason why I said let's do it early is because this way I can keep going. It's not a problem.
Sure. Well, appreciate you.
Yeah. So we've got a question channel on our Discord, so like anyone that supports us can ask questions in there. So Astra said if you can have a collab with any franchise for Monster Hunter that is feasible, what kind of franchise would you like to see? And they did say returning franchises count too.
Returning franchise. What about if it's a franchise that no longer exists?
That can happen.
Feasible?
Okay, like hold on.
Soul Sacrifice.
Soul Sacrifice.
I don't know that one.
I love bringing up this game all the time. Nobody knows about it. It's a game that died on the Vita. It's like PlayStation owns the IP, I think, and it was made by a company called Concept, who are the same guys that did Mighty Number 9, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
But yes,
Soul Sacrifice. Someone in chat was talking about this the other day.
Yeah, Soul Sacrifice is one of the Monster Hunter-like games that is probably the best Monster Hunter-like game ever made, because it's kind of like Monster Hunter, except you're a spellcaster and you're slinging spells, and it was one of my favorite games, and it's a shame that that game is just like dead on the Vita. There's actually a newer version that they came out with, which was Soul Sacrifice Delta, that had more content. But the thing about that game is not only was it a really cool game from a gameplay standpoint, it also has these really dark stories, like from I think it's called the Grimm universe or whatever, where it's like all of these fantastical tales, but then they get like really twisted and really bad stuff happens. Because the concept of Soul Sacrifice is like you can cast spells, but you're sacrificing things. So whenever you kill a monster, you go up to it and you sacrifice and absorb its soul, and that powers up your spells. And then the really cool thing is, let's say we're playing co-op, because it's got 4-player co-op. Let's say the 3 of us are playing co-op and Garrett dies, but the monster's about to die. So I can choose to sacrifice Garrett rather than save him and cast like a super powerful spell. And then you actually see Garrett's body would like start raising up from the ground, and like shaking, and then suddenly bones spit out of your body, and then just like starts raining shards of bone everywhere from this super powerful spell that you cast, and you'd get like a kill from that. But then I think you have to like spend some resources or something to recover your stuff. And you can also like sacrifice parts of your body to do super special spells. So you would be able to rip off your eyes and do like a super spell. And then the penalty for that would be your screen would get like a really heavy vignette. So you'd only see like the middle of the screen because you're effectively blind. So they would do all these things. But like, even though Garrett would die, you would still be able to influence things. You'd still be able to run around in spirit form, and you'd be able to like buff me with damage or debuff the enemy, or even pick up like weapons from the ground as a spirit and beat up on monsters with the weapons. So it's really, really cool. It's a super unique concept. I would usually try to like, because you could play with NPCs as well. So what I would do is I would try to beat the crap out of the boss. And if I fell off, you could ask the NPC to get you back up. But if the boss was about to die, I'd usually be like trying to get, okay, sacrifice me, like kill me and kill this boss. And the NPC would sacrifice you and you go out in the blaze of glory and kill the boss. It's so satisfying.
These bosses are gnarly.
Yeah. And the thing is, each of those bosses has like a unique, really cool story to them as to how they became that way. Because the whole thing is like, there's this chalice that gives people wishes, but it's like one of those things where it completely twists their wish. So let's say, like there's a merchant. Yeah, there's a merchant that goes like, oh, I want to be wealthy beyond imagining. So the chalice just like transforms parts of his body into gold. It's like, there you go. You're super rich. You're made out of gold now. Congratulations. And you're just cursed forever. But yeah, there's some really cool aspects of that game. So if I could have any collab with Monster Hunter, probably be Soul Sacrifice. I don't know how adequate it would be considering the nature of like the monsters in Monster Hunter and whatnot. But considering they brought over Behemoth, I'm sure we could bring something from Soul Sacrifice over.
Find a way to translate it. Yeah. I've multiple times have thought while playing this game, I'm like, listen, I know we're all really tired of like IP crossovers because of the post Fortnite world that we live in, but like, hot damn, yeah. I want a Jurassic Park crossover event so bad. I just want
that would make sense.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
A Spinosaurus.
Like, you want to know the most frustrating crossover that happened to me in Monster Hunter World? Assassin's Creed.
Oh, but I would love a hood.
Wait, they did that?
Like, they did.
I would
but you can't. But set. You can't do it anymore.
Oh, I was
because unlike everybody else that did collabs with Monster Hunter, Ubisoft was like, no. We're going to take our ball and go home once the license expires. So like the Final Fantasy stuff is still in there. Ubisoft gave us like the character from Assassin's Creed Origins, Bayek. But the worst part is Capcom was so keen on doing like something really cool with Ubisoft. They had a unique mantle that you can't get in the game anymore. There's like this assassin's mantle that you would get, which would make your character run faster and deal more damage with the first attack that it would do, kind of like a sneak attack type of deal. And then they just removed it, and it was disgusting. Like we have like people are pointing out in chat, we have a collab from The Witcher with the actual voice actor of The Witcher. Okay? Actual voiced collab that you guys should definitely do. It's a really cool quest.
Geralt's just hanging out in Monster Hunter.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you can get a Geralt skin. You can look just like Geralt, and you can have his sword, and instead of having a shield, he has like the Quen sign, which is like the one that absorbs damage in his hand. So it works like a sword and shield. Cool. And you can get Geralt. You can get Ciri as well. In I don't know if that was master rank or high rank. I forget. But yeah, you can get Geralt and you can get Ciri from the collab with The Witcher. But Ubisoft were literally the only ones like, no, we're taking our ball and going home. Lame. I was very sad.
I'm so shocked. You mean to tell me that Ubisoft did something that was lame? I can't imagine.
I know.
I'm a big Assassin's Creed apologist too. Everything before they made it a diet Dark Souls, like, oh man, I loved that shit. I was so invested in the first 3 Assassin's Creed and the lore, and Black Flag I still think is one of the greatest games ever made. Like, yeah. And
did I spoil them on Geralt? I'm sorry.
No, that's all good.
I thought you guys would guys would know about the collabs.
No, why would that be a spoiler? That's just enticement to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly, it's been really refreshing after, having a multi-year arc through Final Fantasy 14. Like no one seems to care about spoilers in Monster Hunter, and I really like that. It's nice because that means if folks are here watching and they're having fun and they're using the nicknames for the monsters, no one's getting on their case about it, and I like that. I just want people to show up, have a fun time, because it don't mean shit to me. I don't know what those names mean. I don't care. The experience is the fight itself.
I hate spoilers in Monster Hunter. I'm like, no, I don't want to know anything. And to give an idea, I got to interview the team behind Wilds, and I specifically told them, can you please reveal less monsters? Please. I want to stop revealing monsters in promotional material. Ryozu gives me a look and is like, this guy, this goddamn guy.
I mean, that is the content, right? Like, and like seeing a still image of a monster doesn't do much for me. I think if I had the legacy knowledge of like, wait, I know that frog lizard, that's from 3, and he does now I'm full of not, but right now it doesn't mean anything. But seeing like a Dark Souls boss, seeing a guide of how to beat it, no, that's the puzzle. Don't ruin my gameplay. Like, that's off limits.
Yeah, but for newcomers, if people just tell you names like, Fatalis, you guys are like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
But for like,
serious
for somebody who knows Monster Hunter, to have like Fatalis spoil, it's like, I wish I didn't know about that. It would have been cool to experience that in the game first time around. But yeah.
Interesting. It's refreshing for me. Like it's like cool.
No, but it's fine. Because usually the community is, at least I personally think that it's been one of the most welcoming communities. Because like I was still somewhat noob when I got to World, and I was still trying to like, okay, I like this thing, I want to share it with people. And even when I got something wrong, whatever, people wouldn't like crucify me or anything. They'd be like, okay, listen, you got this thing wrong, so for the next time you should think about it like this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I learned alongside the community a lot of the stuff that I know about Monster Hunter nowadays. They've been super chill.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. The other day I got horribly overwhelmed because I just asked about defense, and then the people who are like, I would describe
defense sucks. Don't use it.
It's a trap.
I got the second I see it forms bad habits, I stop listening to what you say. Because I just feel like you like that's why I've stayed away from Souls like for so long until Elden Ring.
Defense forms bad habits.
Yes.
I mean.
Yeah, I'm like,
it's
why,
like,
why is it in the game? Why is it in the game?
There's
it's in the game. Just
there's a subsect of the community that's a little bit on the elitist side, and I understand why.
It's understandable. They're the notice me senpai people that exist in Souls like. They just want to be christened by a sword by the creator of Souls.
It's not
his name right now.
It's not just that. I genuinely feel like a lot of people are coming from a good place, but I also think that it is frustrating when some of them try to gatekeep certain skills and stuff like that. Because one of the things that happened, we had a player recently, to give you an idea of how welcoming this community is. This player called Hey Jay, he came into the community around the time that Rise was about to come out. And the video that he made was basically just like crapping all over Rise. He played the demo and he was like, this game's terrible. I don't like anything about this game. I don't understand how you people like this game. It was that kind of a video. And the community didn't go in there and just like start insulting. They went in there, it's like, no, listen, Hey Jay, we're gonna bring you along for the journey. We're gonna take you by the hand. We're gonna show you the way. And he is now like one of the biggest advocates for Monster Hunter. He's gone back, played the old games, did all of that stuff, and he's just like super addicted to it. So one of the things that happened was his first kill on this Fatalis monster, which is like the pinnacle encounter of Iceborne. His first kill was using a skill called Divine Blessing. And there was a small group of people that went up and it's like, well, it doesn't count. Use Divine Blessing, doesn't count. And I was just like, I'm going to go kill Fatalis right now with Divine Blessing Secret, which increases the level of the skill more to be even more effective, just to piss you off. Hell, I'll put in extra Divine Blessings that won't even do anything just to annoy you. Because like, it's a skill. It's in the game. Like, it's that simple. Like, it doesn't matter. Everybody should be able to use Divine Blessing if they want. Divine Blessing, what it does, the reason why people don't like it, it's a skill that has a chance when something hits you, it deals less damage. But it has a chance. So people say, well, it's RNG. It doesn't count. It's like, what do you mean it doesn't count? You slot in for crit. That's a chance to deal more damage.
True.
What do you mean? Except you can reach 100% crit, but most of the people don't reach 100% crit.
Well, you know,
So,
they run those negative crit because they hate it so much. They got to get that on their weapons.
Yeah, I can understand because typically I'm not the biggest RNG fan in the world, but you know, it's the sake of
it's a skill. It's a skill. I think it's fine. So it's like if you want to use defense, I think it's fine. I think mostly the reason why people would advise you against it is I don't think it's very good. But if you want to use it, I think that's fine.
And there's real stuff too, like the Guardian armor. Like that just breaks the gameplay loop. And
yeah, that we said we made a conscious decision not to use it because like I want to learn the gearing loop. Like I like gearing systems in games, and so
I wouldn't recommend the Guardian armor. I used it because I played the entire game on PlayStation 4, and then when I went to the PC, I was like, oh, I just kind of like want to rush back to where I was. So I used Guardian armor and rushed through everything, but it's because I experienced everything before doing that. But for a fresh playthrough, I usually advise against the Guardian armor. But again, it's an advice. If you want to use it, do whatever you want. But I think the game's more enjoyable if you don't use Guardian armor or Guardian weapons for that fact, because they're way too easy to upgrade and they break the game pretty much.
Yeah, one of our streams, I equipped one because I didn't realize what it was. Because I was like making weapons. I was like, oh, damn, this is a decent upgrade. Hell yeah, let's go for this.
Yeah.
And then like it went really smooth. And then Kyle's like, wait, is that a Guardian sword? I'm like, shit. Yeah, it is. I didn't even think about it. I was just thinking, I thought it was just armor. I didn't realize they were also weapons. So I was just like, oh, this looks sick. And
it looks sick, and it's so easy to upgrade. Look, it's one material to upgrade every time. It's so easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, one iron ore, next level. So good.
Probably should have tipped me off. but yeah. We got a question from Karaka, who said that they have tried Monster Hunter on more than one occasion. It just doesn't seem to click. And they mentioned that they also like a lot of other Capcom properties. So they said, what would you recommend for people struggling to find fun in Monster Hunter if they really do want to give it another chance? I would start by saying, I hope this 2-hour plus conversation has probably piqued a little more interest for you.
So I think the easiest way is finding somebody in the community that can help you understand. Because like I said, I didn't like the game until a friend of mine led me by the hand. It's like, hey, here's how this works. Here's what the loop is. Here's how you do this thing and that thing and the other. And that helps a lot. If you don't have literally anybody, I mean, usually you can find somebody like on either a forum or a Discord. There's probably a bunch of people in your Discord now that are playing Monster Hunter as a consequence of you two playing Monster Hunter, I would imagine, because usually communities have crossover and stuff like that. So it'd probably be easy to go to your Discord and find somebody that's also interested in learning. It's just having somebody there with you, even if they're also new, like the two of you, right? Kyle and Garrett. Kyle kind of like pulled you back in, right? That's the whole thing. It's having that camaraderie of having somebody else there with you helps a lot, because then you're not just by yourself. And there's like this common goal where it's, hey, we're working towards this thing now. We're working towards that thing now. And you start creating common goals. There's a reason why when this game really blew up, it was not when the initial Monster Hunter came out. The very first Monster Hunter was a very niche title. It was popular in Japan, not super popular in the West. When it blew up was when they ported it to PlayStation Portable. And why was that? Because everybody was playing with everybody in Japan. People have all these commutes, but they all have like really good infrastructure for internet and stuff like that. So people be hunting in trains. Like on their commute to work, they're hunting. Everybody's like getting together and doing like their urgent quests, because you have to repeat the urgent quest. They'd be like, hey, we're doing urgent quests, and somebody would join in. And it's like there were all these places publicly where people get together and play. So the multiplayer aspect of it is definitely something that I would recommend. If you are struggling with it, get a friend, find somebody online to play with you, and everything just kind of magically falls into place usually. Just if you're doing worlds, expect that story jank that we talked about of like, oh, I have to watch the cutscene, then you have to watch the cutscene, then you exit, then we join. There's just that jank, but that's only in the beginning of the story. Once you get through the story, then it's just like seamless hunting and you're just having a blast.
Yeah, and I'll also say, like, as someone who probably couldn't had a harsher take on my first experience with that specific aspect, the co-op aspect, like, do like 2-3 hunts, you'll get in a groove of like knowing exactly what you need to do to go play with your friend, even if you want to experience the story campaign together, because that's what Kyle and I are doing. It took us like not even an hour, and I feel like, oh yeah, okay, we're in the groove now. So
it's that whole thing of once it clicks with you, the whole aspect of, okay, so we're hunting to get these materials to craft this armor so that we can go hunt harder things. And that's kind of the loop. Once that clicks into place, if you're somebody that likes getting gear, it's like one of the best experiences ever because you have super control over the things that you're going to be getting. You're like, oh, we're going to farm Great Jagras now, and we're going to get his sword with non-elemental boost or something, and that's going to be really cool. And yeah. But I do think that if you're struggling, find somebody to kind of like get you going, to keep you moving. Like even for myself, for instance, for some of the harsher grinds of the game, because Rise and Sunbreak, for instance, has a really annoying grind near the end. You know, when I would get there, it's like it's the friends that would keep you going. I'd get my group of friends like, okay, boys, we got this grind to do. We got to get to it. Let's go. Because if you're just grinding by yourself, it gets very, very annoying unless you're just having the best time. But if you're struggling, yeah.
Good advice.
I like social games. It's why I give a crap about MMOs. Like, and I'm having a very similar experience right now in Monster Hunter. That's
yeah,
what I would say.
Absolutely.
We'll take one more question. Nurho said, besides your weapon of choice, what weapons do you always enjoy seeing someone use in a multiplayer lobby?
The weapons that I enjoy seeing people use.
Oh yeah, like you see someone and you're like, oh, check them out, look at them go.
I mean, probably my favorite one is Hunting Horn because it makes me deal more damage.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I love seeing Hunting Horn, but another one that I really like seeing is probably Hammer. These are weapons that I usually don't play. The reason I like Hammer, even though they nerfed this in Wilds, which was very frustrating to me, but it's because Hammer has moves that will like launch you into the air, sometimes by mistake, and I just like that chaos. So there was this one time we're fighting this dragon, right, that has a big frontal cone, and I position myself perfectly so that as the monster starts the cone, I'm like, oh, I'm right next to the head. I'm going to punish this so hard. Hammer user rolls in. Here I come. Boom. Yeets me right into the middle of the frontal cone. I was like, no. And it's like, for a lot of people, they think that's frustrating. They think, I don't even know if he did. I don't think he did it on purpose because the move that launches is also used as a gap closer for Hammer users. And sometimes they miscalculate the distance. So he hits me and I get launched. I don't remember I think I survived it because I was able to roll out of it, but it's just fun. I see it as pure chaotic fun, and I think it's really cool when it happens. The other reason I like hammers and hunting horns is because they also KO the monster, which is something that I usually don't do with my weapons of choice. So those are usually the weapons that I like seeing in the hunt when I'm not playing those.
So you're a synergy man. You like filling in the missing pieces.
What are the buffs of percent? Like how in a
the hunting horn?
Yeah, in a 2-player experience, how much would a hunting horn bring to the table versus a 4?
I mean, hunting, I mean, obviously with a 4, it's going to scale way more, but it still brings a lot of utility because what the hunting horn does is because it's a blunt weapon, it does both KO damage when you hit the head, and it also exhausts the monster. So blunt hits have this innate exhaust, except it doesn't work on elder dragons. That's the only thing. But on all the other monsters, it has innate exhaust, which is when the monsters get tired and they start drooling. So that will happen more often if you have somebody with a hunting horn or a hammer. But in terms of the buffs, it's not even about how much it brings to the table because you're thinking about it in terms of damage. It's not just damage, even though you can get a horn that is just like, okay, this gives you attack up L. That will give you like a massive buff to damage to both of you because it also affects the hunting horn user. But you have to think of it also in terms of utility because the hunting horn can give you like, hey, we have earplugs now. You give both of you earplugs buff. That means monster roars. You keep going. Or, hey, we have
so bad.
Wow.
We have better sharpness, or you know, there's a bunch of buffs. I don't know them all by head because I don't play hunting horn, but you have to really like hunting horn, especially in World, because like in Wilds it's going to be easier to use hunting horn, but in Worlds hunting horn is a little bit rough to get used to if you're not used to it, and it's got a lot of mechanics. So like for instance, there's one of the moves that you do with a hunting horn, which is like it does this circular thing. You can do 2 notes with it. So you do the note where you do the attack, and then when the attack finishes, if you input another note, you get a second note for free, which is important for the mechanics of the hunting horn. It's got a bunch of stuff like that.
Interesting.
But it also has a really cool move that they introduced with Iceborne that I was hooked on. I forget what the button is, but I think it's after you do like a combo or something. You can put it in the ground. It literally plants the horn in the ground like... and then it spins it. And it starts just dealing tons of hits. And I was so addicted to that. For a while, I played hunting horn just to do that. I would go up to the monsters.
It's
really
so
fun.
goofy. It's wild.
Yeah. It's really cool. No, but it's again, it's not something that I would say, oh, we should bring this because it's going to be a massive advantage. But if you like it and you think it's fun, then yeah, it's going to be cool.
Okay.
To me, it's always like whenever it comes to choosing weapons, you should choose one that's fun. You should never be like, oh, this is the most powerful weapon. This is the weapon that I have to play. It should be more like you go into the training room, you try out all of the different weapons, and you're like, oh, I kind of vibe with this one, and I like the style of this one. And then you learn more about it, which is why I was saying, if you guys are so into Charge Blade, you should just learn to use a Charge Blade because you will have more fun than, oh, I'm going to use this one because it's like simpler Charge Blade.
I mean, it's how I ended up on Sword and Shield. I was just like, oh, this just feels fun. Like it just kind of clicked, and
Man,
I like the
it
animation.
feels bad.
So I liked looking at it. Like
feels bad for Sword and Shield, man. It's like, yeah, I ended up on Sword and Shield because I couldn't hack it with the Charge Blade. So you want to know a funny thing that I learned because of podcasting like a while ago? One of the community managers told me this. The reason why Charge Blade exists is because one of the directors, I forget which director it was, for one of the games, he was just like, I feel like Sword and Shield's kind of ass, so I'm just going to do a better one. And he made Charge Blade.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, motivation existed, I guess. So, you know.
Huh. I don't know.
Born
it's
of a
funny 'cause
problem.
I also play a lot of Sword and Shield. I like them both. I like Sword and Shield and I like Charge Blade, so I like them both. But yeah, that did happen.
I like the kind of to choose my own adventure of engaging with Sword and Shield. I really like that. Doesn't feel rigid.
It is a ton of fun. Like Sword and Shield has so much potential because you can do KOs, you can do mounts, you can use items without sheathing your weapon, which other weapons can't do. Even though I don't use that all that often because sheathing Sword and Shield so fast anyway. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I've been on a journey with it because the second I saw that, like I think it's even mentioned, like we watched a bunch of the Joe Cat guides because
Joe Cat.
When we were starting 14, it was like people were like, watch the Joe Cat guides. You need to watch the Joe Cat guides. And we're like, well, they're like comedy, right? Like, how much am I going to really learn? And I watched the Final Fantasy 14 Joe Cat guides. I actually learned a ton. Like, they're surprisingly informative. And then I go back and I watch the Monster Hunter Joe Cat guides, which are really early in his career, and they're clearly just in jokes for people who know about Monster Hunters. I didn't learn as much.
When he's like,
he loves Sword and Shield, so his Sword and Shield guide actually does teach you a decent amount about Sword and Shield. And in it, he mentions you can use items without sheathing, and I immediately I back up. I'm like, oh, I don't want to learn about items. I don't want to learn about items. And immediately chat's like dunking on me, like, welcome to Monster Hunter, motherfucker. You're going to have to learn about items. And like 3 days later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm bringing explosive barrels and I'm all excited about the items that I'm bringing with me. I think I've hit another like kind of pain point. Like I'm now, when we got to drink cool drink. I'm like, I don't like that in games. Like if you just have to use an item.
It's immersive.
It's
immersive.
Role play being by lava.
It's boring. Like, does it do anything cool? No, it just lets you exist without this sucking. All right, then I hate it. Like, I don't like that in games.
There's usually the mushrooms that make that potion. They're usually on every entry when you go to the fire zone. So you'll be fine. Just pick up one of those mushrooms. Drink the potion.
I'm hitting a pain point. I crested one hill and I was like, I love items. And now I'm kind of down in the rut again where I'm like, all right, there's too many stupid freaking items. Like I don't want to think about this many things in the background.
You'll get used to it.
Particularly making it. Like when we were doing Gigante and Kyle's like, all right, do your attack up demon juice and then get your armor up armor potion. And I'm like, all right, this one potion takes 2 things. This other potion takes 2 things, but then you need 2 more things plus the potion. I'm like, I'm officially annoyed. This is too much.
I don't barely ever use demon drugs and armor drugs. I rarely ever use that stuff. You don't have to.
I was just like, this is officially past my point of my fun point. Like
that's usually like speedrunner stuff. You can use it like if you're struggling or something, or if you're doing like a super pinnacle boss, like if you're trying out Fatalis and maybe you don't have the best gear, or even if you do have the best gear and you're just like, oh, I need just a little bit more damage, then you might want to go that level of try hard. But usually you don't have to. You can finish the game without using any of that stuff. So you don't need to do
thank
that.
God. All right,
You do need to eat. You do need to eat, and you should pay attention to the food buffs.
Like,
But yeah,
I go like right now at the point we're at. I haven't really been thinking about the food buffs too much. I just go get the chef's platter and I move on. But
yeah, everybody gets the chef's platter.
but I should probably start fathoming. Although, yeah, I was grinding the other night. I went to the hub, and the holiday meal seemed really good. So I was just using that.
Yeah, the holiday meal is kind of just like a different version of the chef's meal. That's usually those were events that, like I was telling you, the first time that those events happen, like they're called the names that they are for a reason. So the first time the Spring Festival happened, it was spring. In the actual world, it was spring, and they put on the Spring Festival. Then summer festival, and then October was like the Halloween festival, or whatever it is that they did. And there's all of these things. It was all themed, and it was all planned to go live, and that's why a lot of people thought it was live servicey, because around those times they would just like, okay, now here's 20 event quests for all these crazy things, and all those are just available now in the game. You can do all those event quests, but back then, you would have to wait for a festival for the big event quest to show up, and then you go in there and grind the crap out of that. The whole community would come together to grind. This is a fun time.
Yeah,
I'm hoping they do the same for Wilds, but I don't know if that'll be the case.
I would be surprised if they didn't. I don't know.
Because they didn't do it for Rise. In Rise, it was just
fair.
like, okay, here's event quests, and they're just here forever, and there you go.
Do you? I don't know. Like, I never got a sense that Rise was anywhere close to the popularity of World, and
it wasn't
part of it.
No, it wasn't. But I still love Rise.
Because I was aware of Monster Hunter come up a few times. Like there were some kids in my college that enjoyed it, but it was never seemed popular, and I never had anyone in my life that could explain it to me. And then World hit. And I lost raid mates to World. Like World was a proper sensation.
No,
like people,
you didn't lose them. They went to a better place.
See, at the time, when did World come out? 2018.
It's more they lost you. It was the other way around.
What WoW expansion was 2018? I don't even remember.
I don't remember. That sounds like probably Shadowland. Was it? No, it was probably BFA. Yeah, 2018 is probably BFA.
Yes, no, I did lose. I mean, the raids were pretty fun. I like the raids in BFA.
I think they made the right choice.
I mean, now that I'm experiencing World, I'm like, yes, this game is very good. I would have probably preferred that over my rating.
I mean, it's like you can get the chest, the Great Vault chest, or you can go hunt monsters. It's a very easy choice.
You just don't worry about the Great Vault chest. Just pay attention to what drops in the raid and just pretend like they never added it. Just force yourself to play Wrath of the Lich King loot rules and ignore their current retail loot rules.
Oh yeah.
Gear still drops, like specific gear still drops off of specific bosses in World of Warcraft. They never stopped doing that.
Yeah, but like what frustrated me is that they reduced at least at one point they reduced the amount of loot that would drop in the mythic dungeons in order to compensate. Oh, but you get loot in the Great Vault. And I was like, yeah, but you took it away from the dungeons. Like I could at least target it in the dungeons. So yeah.
I'm with you on that. I'm getting to a point where I'm having so much fun doing just difficult shit in co-op experiences with Kyle that I want to go do mythic dungeons because I think we'd have a fun time doing it together. But I've always been in the camp of I don't like what Mythic Dungeons did to the gearing cycle of World of Warcraft. I call it the Diablo-fication of World of Warcraft. I don't like it. I always liked having, and it's clearly it's something that's clicking with me in Monster Hunter World because they got the wish list. I always called it my shopping list in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it is a grocery list. Yeah,
up till like Pandaria, you could just target. Like you just like. You knew what dropped where, and there was still the RNG element of maybe it will drop, maybe it won't, and eventually a patch will come in, and you'll get catch-up gear with badges that you can fill in places where you got unlucky. But I really liked that system. I loved that in World of Warcraft, and it kept me engaged with the game. It kept me engaged with the world. It kept me engaged with the raids and the dungeons because of that gearing cycle. And while it still does exist, you have a random chance of getting more powerful armor from so many other things in the game, and it's so random that it for me it kind of
it's just a slot machine. Yeah,
Yeah, and remove my investment.
And it doesn't surprise me that when you get into Monster Hunter, you just get the exact opposite. Because like, oh, I can target this, I can target that, I can target the other. Which is why when this other monster came out, that was like random loot. I was like, no, stop. None of this.
Yeah.
I want to keep targeting my things. Stop it.
Yeah, and there's still RNG, but it's the RNG that I prefer. It's like it's got a loot table and it has a chance of dropping this, that, and the other, and so you just know, you're like, okay, well, I'll just keep doing it until I get what I need, and like that's what I prefer. I don't think slot machines are necessarily inherently bad, because clearly a lot of people like it. Because a lot of games do that style of RNG. But for me, I prefer this style of things. So
being able to target, is massive.
Feels good.
Yeah. Again, I went from 1 hour played thinking it was a jank game that I had no interest in to being like, holy crap, this is like what I've been looking for. Like I'm really enjoying it.
And you're still only in base world. When you guys get to Iceborne, when you finish the story of Iceborne, the game just like opens up in ridiculous ways. You're gonna be like, oh my god,
I'm excited.
Look at all these things.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Our goal right now is to try and at least just finish base world before next Friday. And then we'll see where we go.
We don't have a lot of bosses,
you guys are at,
but
if you guys are at Nergigante, I don't think you're too far off from the end at that point.
Yeah, I think I think if we hit him again with good gear that we're just going to kind of keep, we can probably just mainline it to the end of world proper.
Yeah. Well, I think we should wrap it there, because I think we're officially at the longest podcast we've ever done, and we're ending.
It's the Rurikhan effect. He won't shut up.
Yeah, and
this was delightful.
I want to end on me being like, and now it's one of my favorite games. Like, I like ending on that note.
It's good. It's good stuff. Well, thank you for joining us, and it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on Wilds when it's all out. We all got our hands on it. It'll be a pleasure to have you back.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Promote your channels. Where can folks find you, Rurikhan, if they're not familiar with you already?
You can just find me on youtube.com/Rurikhan, and I'm usually covering either Monster Hunter or something from Software, or some other random Souls-like, or something else. Like recently, I've also gotten into Path of Exile 2, which I think is really cool. But yeah, it's usually just Monster Hunter mostly. Whenever there's something happening in Monster Hunter, I'm there like a maniac.
Freaking hell yeah. Well, I had so much fun on this chat. Thank you for being so generous with your time. I'll have to have you back again sometime, or just join us for a hunt sometimes.
Yeah,
when we're all wilds and up. Yeah.
That will be cool. All right.
Yeah. That's sick. Well, I'm going to hit stop record, which brings us to the end of the official podcast. We usually hang out for a minute or two after Ruri, but this is you are free to go.
I'm all good. I'm all good.
I'm gonna go. I gotta get that video.
Listen,
we got a video to put up. I'll get that ready.
I said 2 hours and I booked for 3.
There you go. There you go.
I'll be right back. I know how podcasts are.
Yeah. We've got some thanks to give out. Like 7:30 this morning. You were early, Nia. Thanks for becoming a member. I don't know if you're still around. Appreciate your support there. We got some supers. Chris supered because said it's a super chat to give Rurikhan his requested effects in the Aftershow edit.
It's for the VFX budget.
Yeah.
So that I get an explosion.
VFX budget. We don't usually edit the video version. We just usually edit the audio version.
I'm just joking. It's whatever. It's just everybody knows me for the. You know that I actually got to promote the Gunlance on the official Monster Hunter Twitter account.
Oh, did you? Hell yeah.
Yeah. They invited me. Oh, make a video of Gunlance propaganda, and I was like, yes, very much so.
That's freaking great. You'd be down.
Yeah,
they play PoE too. Yeah, that's another one of those. Like, I'm always happy to lead with why I may not be playing something. Like, I'll just be like, oh, I don't think this X, Y, or Z will click with me, because after Final Fantasy 14, I'm like, you know what? If I just own up to like, I think this is dumb, and then I play it and I like it, it's fun. It's a fun storyline. But PoE, I look at Path of Exile and I look at like that talent system, and I just go, oh boy,
it's not as complicated as it looks. It really isn't. Like I thought the same thing, but then you just kind of like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. So like, oh, I'll play a mercenary. Here's your little square in the mercenary tree. Just use that. and then as you learn more, then you can start branching out. But it's not that complicated. Like I made 2 builds, and I was able to do like high end maps with them. So it's like it's not the best builds, but they were viable. So yeah.
Okay. Sick. Suna, thanks for the super sip. Paladin, Garrett, and Warrior Rurikhan talk on the podcast was not on my 2025 bingo card. Well, I didn't know that you listened to the instance, so if I had known that, it should have been on the bingo card. Yeah, that was the first podcast I ever listened to, the instance. So that was wild.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It was a long time ago. Yeah. I remember for a while I even listened to it when I was not playing World of Warcraft, which is such a weird thing to do. You're just like, you like almost hate consuming World of Warcraft content. It's weird.
Yeah, I talk about like I explain its importance to me in that there was a time in my life where like I'd been listening to it since vanilla. There was a time in my life where I was living in California and I moved back to Florida and I was just feeling really deflated. Like I'd broken up with the girl I was dating at the time and I was moving back to my home state because California had kicked my ass and left me broke. And I was just real down. And I moved back home and like the one rock in my life was listening to the instance and Randy left. And I was just like,
oh, right. Because he went to work at Blizzard, right?
I never worked there. No, but I was Randy out there.
Randy.
Randy. Oh,
Randy went to work at Blizzard.
He still works at Blizzard. Yeah, he's still there. And I just remember coming home being like, "Oh, no, you can't do this to me, Randy. You're like the only rock in my life right now. You can't leave the show." Like I was so bummed because I've been listening to that show for so long, and to me, that was the golden age of that show. Like Randy and Scott.
Yeah,
they were just there was a rapport there that like cannot be recaptured. Like they had such a good thing. I loved those years. It was the thing that like inspired me to make content. So
yeah, like it was something that inspired me to do podcasts as well. Like I started, I would badger pretty much everyone that I would like get in touch with back in the day. It's like, oh, we should do podcasts. We should do because we should do podcasts. And then it was only in 2021 that I actually started, or 2020 at the end of 2020 is when I started properly podcasting. Which like Jesus, that took a long time.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Twilight Shadow. That's a sweet message. Glad you're also liking the Monster Hunter stuff. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for joining us.
But yeah, that's the kind of stuff. Like that was like life got so much better shortly after that. Then moved in with my now wife, and like content creation like opened up so many doors for me. But whoo, that was a time.
Yep.
That was a moment. That was a low point for sure. Kalar, thanks for the super earlier. Said love it when my favorite content creators meet up. A tip of the hat to all of you.
Nice.
Yeah, wearing your hat,
tip of the
Rurikhan. I was
hat.
expecting.
Well, he's got headphones, you know.
It's the headphones.
Yeah.
Like it's very annoying.
I can join you. I've got a similarly styled hat.
That looks like a fedora almost, right? It's like
It is technically. I got it because we were doing a cowboy theme for for M4S. It is technically a Stetson, but it is it's not a traditional style of what people think is a Stetson.
A lot of people think that this is a cowboy hat. This is an Australian outback hat.
Yeah, it's got
very
the little
different.
Exactly. It's got more of a hunting vibe with the
Crocodile Dundee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
I like
it's like a bushwhacker style hat. Like
yeah, exactly. The thing that bothered me is that we used to have these headphones that you could like do like this, right? They'd go on the back of your head and they'd be comfortable. They don't make almost any good ones of those, and I don't like earbuds. So, because otherwise I'd be wearing the hat all the time.
I always wore those. They were like that was like big during the CD player era, like the around the back. Good. Like I was listening to Limp Bizkit with those. Like that was my favorite type of headphone back then.
Like Sennheiser had some of those because Sennheiser's like my favorite headphone brand. So they had some of those and then they stopped making them. It was like, why? Why would you do this? It almost feels like you have to go into the black market to find some of these good headband headphones with good quality because most of them are like for call centers. So they have no quality to them whatsoever. And I was like, oh,
they come with a little dangle on them too. It's like, I got a mic. I don't need that.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't work now with my hair as long as it is. But yeah, that was my favorite headphone for like the longest time.
I'm surprised I'm not the only one because I rarely ever hear anybody talk about these. I'm just like, bro, give me those good headsets in the back. It's so
Yeah, I'm
nice.
trying to remember. Was it Sony? Because I know I was using it with like a G-Shock CD player.
Well, now you can get the bone conductor ones, but they don't have a cord because they're all Bluetooth, but that adds audio delay. You can't use them for shows.
Yeah, there are like some Bluetooth devices that remove the delay, but I'm still not a big fan of Bluetooth headphones because I'm just gonna do a 6-hour stream. It's like, well, that's gonna run out of battery.
What's the battery,
And then you
right?
have to, yeah,
It's
not gonna work.
I would.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, oh, really catchy name. The Sony MDR-G61.
Oh.
These were the frickin'. This is what Garrett was rocking in the 90s.
The ones that I had, I still remember the name. It was the PMX 950s, I think, from Sennheiser. But yeah, they stopped making them. And I was like, no, I should. If I'd known they were gonna, I would have bought like 10 of them, like easily. I would have just like, oh, I'll buy 10 just so that I can have them when they run out. Were those good quality, like bassy? They sound like super cheap. They look like super cheap, at least.
I mean, at the time, it was like the first halfway decent pair of headphones I ever had. Actually, I should send you a link, Kyle, because I know your image thing doesn't like you need a link.
Oh yeah, no,
right?
I'm seeing these. There's exactly how you remember them. These are great.
Yeah,
Look
at the time, like it was. Like, I had crappy headphones before that, but I remember getting my first nice CD player, getting those, and like hearing proper stereo sound for the first time, and just being like, "Oh my God, Will Smith has never sounded better." Getting jiggy with it, has stereo tracking. Who knew? Like it was a time and a place for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Nobody, thanks for the super. You were asking when Monster Hunter Wilds drops. I love that you did that instead of like going to a search engine. I mean, I think it's 9 p.m. Pacific, right? So it's going to be midnight for us on the East Coast.
Yeah,
next
midnight.
Thursday.
Midnight Thursday, right?
They made like a post. They made a post, I think, the official Monster Hunter account, where they converted to local times and whatnot.
Yeah, one of those like worldwide releases, I think, right?
Yeah. I think it's different for PC as well. I think they got different times because of the times at which Steam updates or something. You guys are playing it on PC, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, we did.
It does have crossplay.
We tried the beta last Thursday on our PC, and it ran really nice. But we're rocking 4080s, so we got pretty beefy cards. But it ran buttery smooth.
The beta ran smooth. That's something I don't hear very often.
We have a lot of trust.
It's usually
in
just a Blizzard thing. Usually it's just the Blizzard betas that run smooth.
I trust that RE engine too. It does good work.
I love I see that logo. I'm like, all right, it's going to be a good experience.
So there we go. Yeah. So it is midnight East Coast on Friday, but that'd be Thursday still in Los Angeles.
What time is that for you? You're 5 hours ahead of us in Peru.
Right, Peru.
Wait, where are you?
Portugal.
Brain hurts, man. Portugal. Sorry.
It's the other P country.
I had 1 hour of sleep last night.
Yeah, I get it.
My apologies.
It's 5:44 for me right now. I assume it's like 3 for you guys, right?
It's noon 44. It's 12.
Oh, it's noon. Okay,
5 hours ahead of us. So that's actually.
So I guess it's like 5 in the morning. I guess for me.
Yeah, if it's midnight for us, it's 5 a.m. for you.
I did 3 a.m. for the beta. It is what it is.
There's also the Philippines. That's the other P country we could have confused you with.
I don't think I look very Filipino.
Work takes place in strange places. Who knows?
It's true.
Yeah. No, but do you think I'm American or something? Because I'm actually Portuguese.
I made no assumptions. Like
a lot of people usually think I'm American because of my accent.
You remind me. You don't have a super noticeable accent. I had this experience years and years and years ago. But Kyle and I actually have a mutual friend who's from Switzerland, and I was friends with him for years in college. And I went over to his dorm room to play WoW one day, and I'm like, "Dude, what is up with your electrical outlets? Why are they wrong?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I need converters because everything I bring over from Switzerland is like German hardware." I'm like, "What do you mean bring over from Switzerland?" He's like, "I'm Swiss, dude." I'm like, "The fuck you are?"
Yeah, when we don't have accents. Yeah, when we don't have accents, it's weird. I watched too much Star Wars when I was a kid.
I was about to, like, you sound, yeah, like I guess now that you mention it, like I'm kind of picking up on it, but no, you sound like you have an American accent, like
Yeah.
to me. Like there were times you were talking today, you sounded vaguely northeastern to me. Like you kind of got into it.
There are some words. Yeah, there are some words that like get away from me, and sometimes I start because all of my English was learned through like osmosis through watching American media. So sometimes I'll like switch between different accents. I'll be a little bit more New Yorker or something like that, and then it goes to different places. So yeah, it's
that makes
weird.
sense. Yeah.
Dang.
But yeah, I never had to study for English because of consuming so much American media.
Dang. That's wild. Not trying to make a pun with Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
It's legitimately wild. Yeah, I know you'd mentioned Portugal, and I was just like, my brain went straight into just like, all right, how do I schedule for this? Like, so I just pulled up a time converter, and I didn't really even think about where you are on the globe, but and then my adult brain went to P country, Peru. Nope, oops, there it is. Enjoy chat, enjoy dunking on me. Faro Fluid, that is very generous. Thank you. That's a generous super. Put it towards copies of Wilds for both of us. All right, I did want I did want that.
Oh, there you go.
Edition,
Consider it done.
There you go. You guys already have Wilds copies now. You're set and good to go.
Done and done.
What weapons are you planning? Same weapons that you're using right now for Wilds?
Unless something stops me on dual blades, I need to spin like that. Down the monster.
Captain Levi.
At least 30 times. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, some Levi shit is in my future.
You can do that in the game right now.
Yeah, it's off a wall, right? It's the Levi. It's the cables into it that is just takes it next level.
The hook.
Yeah.
I'm not even an Attack on Titan fan, but it looks so cool in Monster Hunter.
That's the main reason why everybody loves that weapon. It's like, oh, I remember talking to somebody recently, and they were like, "You got to teach me how to do that crazy stuff they do with the dual blades." It's like, it's not hard.
No, it's very easy, actually. Yeah,
you do the focus strike, and it does it. It's super easy.
There's so much about the Sword and Shield that I like that is, I think, gonna make it difficult for me to not play it. But like, I'll tell you, the big one, and the Wilds beta just made my love of this worse. The slide attack animation on Sword and Shield is like one of just the juiciest things I've done in a game. Like you
slash and then you go up.
Fighting a monster would look like you slide down, you get low, you slide in, you get a couple hits in, then you pop yourself up, and then you're just mounting because you get a free air attack at the end of that little combo. Like it's just
that is one of my favorite Sword and Shield moves as well. Just like, and then you go up into the air. The thing that kind of saddens me is that you haven't even gotten to experience what I think is the coolest thing the Sword and Shield can do, because it's not available on World, and it's not going to be available in Wilds, which is a shame, which is the glory of Shoryugeki.
Okay.
So Shoryugeki is a move that you can do with a Sword and Shield where it's a parry. And so this is available in like Rise. And what happens is the monster's coming in with an attack, and you do your parry at the right time. And so your character just goes like block, and then it does like a dragon punch into the air with your shield. And you even hear like this sound when you nail it. It goes like ching. And it just like, it spins like actual dragon punch from Street Fighter. It's so good. You have to look up a video of that. It is one of the most satisfying things with that weapon. But awesome. It sucks that it's not in Wilds or World. It sucks.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, I've been like looking for parry, and like chat's been confusing me because some folks use parry as a term. They're like, "Oh, you got a perfect parry." I'm like, "There's no parry." Like, what are we talking about?
Perfect parry with Sword and Shield.
Yeah, I don't know. I started asking around, and like our wonderful mod Luke, who's played a ton of Monster Hunter, was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about."
Yeah, I don't know how you would get a parry with Sword and Shield in the World. Yeah, I don't know how you'd do that. There are some things that you can do with I think or was that only in Rise? I don't know. I'm mixing both games together, but there is something about the way in which you advance into the monster after one of the hopbacks or whatever that you can kind of like invuln some things. It's weird. No, there's no guard point for Sword and Shield, guys. There's guard points for charge blades.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, wait. You did it in Wilds, you mean?
I'm not sure. I don't
in the
remember when
beta?
this got mentioned.
Because if you did it in the beta, yeah, there is perfect blocking in the beta for Wilds. So if you block at the exact right time, your character will do like, you'll hear like a special sound. It's last second blocking.
Is that
That's
what
the way that it
eventually
works.
leads to me like sticking my shield in their mouth because I did it and I don't know how I did it, and it's so cool. In the Wilds beta.
I mean, if you mean the one where you like jump up with the shield or something.
No. Like the I don't know, that big like kind of bear thing. Like went to go bite, and then I had this.
Oh no, that's a clash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a clash.
Clashes are a whole new thing.
So that's just blocking. That's just blocking. You block
if
and
you-
it kind
if
of
you-
like builds up. If you keep blocking, eventually it leads to a clash.
Okay, so it doesn't matter how good your block is, just block and you build it.
It does. If you perfect block, it will build up faster.
Okay, so it is attached to perfect blocking. Okay.
Yeah.
Sick.
It's Clash, and Clash is so cool. I particularly love it with the gun lance because it was funny. The first time that I saw Clash was with one of the bow guns, and I was like, "Hey, wait! The bow gun gets to fire right into the monster's mouth. I want to do that with my gun lance." And Capcom was like, "Okay, you do the same thing." And I was like,
Nice.
"Perfect." But mine does like a cool reload before he does it. He goes like he's holding down the shield like this, and then right before you do the shot, he goes like Terminator style reload.
Oh, nice.
Bang! And then as the monster is reeling back, you'll do like another reload so that you have shells for the follow up. And I was like, oh, this is the best thing ever.
That's
It's so
cool.
good.
That's really freaking sick. Yeah, gun lance is very cool. Between the two, I was really impressed with lance and gun lance. And I'm like, I think I would probably lean gun lance because it was
Because it's the fun one. It's the fun lance. There's the lance and the fun lance.
the other lance lets you like charge all the time though, and that's also fun.
Yeah. No, Lance is amazing. I love Lance. I didn't like Lance in Rise and Sunbreak because they changed the moveset a lot and I didn't like it. But in Wilds looks like they're going back to basics. So it looks really good. Because the thing about the Lance is that it's the ultimate tanking power fantasy where you're literally just in a monster's face the whole time. Monster's about to attack you, block, counter, just keep like constantly punishing. It feels great. You're like the wall in front of the monster. It feels good.
Okay, sick. Christopher Clayton, thanks for that super we missed earlier. Said Rurikhan ripping out my heart on live, mentioning Soul Sacrifice.
Is Soul Sacrifice.
Yeah, that looked like a game that I would have enjoyed.
That is a special game indeed, to the point where for a while I was even telling people, listen, it's worth it to buy that junky ass PlayStation TV thing that costed like $50 for a while, and then you buy Soul Sacrifice and then you just play that. You'll spend like $100. It's worth it. But the thing is, they've turned off the store now, so you can't even buy it. Like, it's over. You can't even buy the game anymore. It's like, damn. Harsh.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is tough. I hate that licensing stuff is the pits. I'm a big Need for Speed fan, and like not being able to get old Need for Speed legally because of music licensing just makes me want to scream.
Yeah.
But it means you'll always have something special, you know? Like I had Otogi Myth of Demons, and I think I'm the only one who played that old From Software back when they were just armor coring. It is a mess, but it's a time and place.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh yeah, it was a sight to behold.
I can imagine. But yeah, the Soul Sacrifice was awesome. I see people in chat being like, oh man, looks like could have been a favorite. It was like, and the thing is just the story, because all of the quests take place in this book, because there's a book that is telling a story and you're reading it. And you go through the book, and the book tells you the story of all of the different monsters, and you start reading about it. And there's very unique stories to all of them, and it's just really, really well done. It was very surprising.
Sick. Well, rad, man. Thanks again. I think we're gonna wind down the stream,
and we're gonna launch a video. It's going live right now.
Our first Monster Hunter video drops now. If you liked our highly conversational Joe Cat Reacts Final Fantasy videos, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this.
There you go.
So stay right here.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, just saying, stay right here on the channel. It should redirect you if you have autoplay on, but there's a link to if you want to go straight to it.
Go enjoy, everybody. GG, everybody, and thanks again, Rurikhan. Appreciate your time.